Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. 各位代表各位贵宾、各位朋友们，大家下午好。This is the fourth Next Summit. We're meeting in person here in Auckland, and that's something of a privilege given that others who are taking part in the summit are doing so in much less propitious circumstances. We are, however, meeting with them online, and much of what is being said for that broadcast will be not shown to us today. Were we to have all our speakers speaking to us, I'm afraid we would be here long beyond our closing off time. The Next Federation and this summit is an organisation that has global ambitions and looks to extend its reach and its influence globally. Its goal is to promote scientific and technological innovation and cooperation, and never has that been more important to the world than at this time of global pandemic. Its vision is to promote cooperation between governments, media, academia, business and community. For those of us in New Zealand, and especially New Zealand businesses looking to be involved in trade or investment in China, it's a mechanism, it's a forum to promote New Zealand interests in China, to promote New Zealand companies, to promote New Zealand products, to promote New Zealand technology. It's a vehicle to gain access and to provide access to new partners in China, to resolve problems that New Zealand companies and other companies might have in China. It's committed to introducing or facilitating the introduction of New Zealand technology and New Zealand research in China. It seeks to facilitate connections with Chinese partners and to navigate the sometimes difficult environment of doing business in China for those who don't understand that environment. The Next Federation wishes to help companies adapt to the different commercial ecosystems that exists when companies are trying or establishing themselves in China. Now, in the course of this summit, although we will not see them all today, there will be representatives taking part from 11 other countries. There will be 8 panels discussing matters of some significance. There will be a total, I'm told, of 66 speakers. But before we can move to that stage of the business, we must have our opening ceremony. Now, the first of our speakers at our opening ceremony is the Vice President of the Next Federation, the former Controller and Special Advisor to the President of the Asia Infrastructure Investment Bank, the AIIB, Dr. Jae-hoon Yoo. Dr. Yoo is now the Chairman of Asia Future Institute, which is an independent think tank for public diplomacy in Korea. I invite Dr. Yoo to join us.
My name is Dr. Jae-hoon Yoo, Vice President of the Next Federation. First of all, I would like to congratulate everyone on the opening of the Next Summit in 2020. When we gathered in Dubai for the Next Summit inauguration, it was hardly conceivable that we could hold an international convention like this over the screen. Today, we all feel that the world is changing and has changed already due to the COVID-19 pandemic. However, I trust that the Next Federation, by its strong membership and its vision for global citizenship, will be able to fulfill our mission through individual strength and common efforts. It is noteworthy that New Zealand, where the offline summit is taking place, China, where a large number of audience is based, and Korea, where I am making these remarks, are those who are leading countries in successfully coping with this global pandemic situation. The Next Federation is firmly committed to exploring future direction of international collaboration and building a global platform for integration and transformation of industrial resources. For these purposes, 2020 Summit will address key topics emerging from the recent development of global landscape as well as social and industrial evolution. These topics are all relevant to lives and livelihood of current and future generation. We know the changes are happening a lot faster than what we may think. Unless we, the current generation, addresses these topics with due diligence, our beloved future generation should suffer, because the massive socio-economic transition will incur significant turmoil and individual costs. The globalized economic landscape that we used to work in before the US-China conflict and COVID-19 pandemic is no longer our reality. Instead, deglobalization moves are emerging, which are based on nationalism and protectionism. However, we should not forget the virtue of free and fair trade and investment that has brought to mankind. I trust that our next Summit 2020 will address this agenda and come up with realistic and relevant solutions and insights to sustain the prosperity in our century. As we are observing rapid changes in the current global supply chain and emerging protectionism, I think regional cooperation in Asia has never been such an important agenda, and we could take advantage of this momentum to fix so-called Asian paradox. Asia, which is now the largest exporter and importer in the globe, still witnesses that their intra-trade volume is smaller than extra-trade. Asia, which is now holding the largest national savings and investment opportunities like in infrastructure, is still seeing that their overseas investments are going more towards US and European markets than Asian market, while their investment projects are being funded largely by non-Asian financiers. The efforts to overcome Asian paradox and transition into a more integrated region should not be limited to the economy. Healthcare, energy, technology, and immigration issues are equally important matters that should be addressed at the regional level. The common benefits are enormous, and we need a stronger consensus and political willingness to build on this idea. The next summit can contribute to this work. The next summit was founded only a few years ago, yet our aspirations and visions are never more relevant and timelier to cope with the current challenges I have mentioned. I do wish another great success of the summit and health and prosperity of all participants. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Yu. This summit today has two principal hosts. The first is the Next Federation. The second is the China Economic Information Service of the Xinhua News Agency. And in a moment, I will ask we will turn to the Secretary General of Xinhua to address us. But before I do that, let me express and acknowledge those other organizations, companies, and individuals who have played a role in bringing us together. The co-organizers who have supported Federation, if I run quickly through them, the Research Center for Regional Coordinated Development of Zhejiang University, the China Academy of the West Region Development of Zhejiang University, the Indonesia Research and Development International, the China Postgraduate Society of New Zealand, Tsinghua University Students Association, Tsinghua 大学学生一带一路委员会, and the Haiwai Jiangxi Ren. In addition, official partners of the Federation who have played a role in bringing this together and providing support and sponsorship today. May I acknowledge the Risland Real Estate Group, the Lane Neve Law Firm, RCR Infrastructure, the Magic Lamp, the Tihihi Estate here, Allied Fasi New Zealand Food, Estelle Drinking Water, JEL International, all from New Zealand, and in addition, the Institute of Peace and Diplomatic Studies from Pakistan. The summit's principal partner and the supplier of our chief designated product, Hong Sifang Jiu. The Secretary General of Xinhua News Agency, Mr. Gong Xixiang, will now address us.
尊敬的各位来宾、女士们、先生们、朋友们，大家好！非常高兴今天和大家共同参与第4届国际展望大会。我代表新华社向各位嘉宾表示热烈的欢迎，对各位新老朋友表示诚挚的问候。本届国际展望大会是在特殊时期举办的，当今世界正面临100年未有之大变局。突如其来的新冠肺炎疫情给各国带来了严重的冲击，同时新一轮科技革命和产业变革深入发展，国际力量对比深度调整，但和平与发展仍然是时代主题。各国期待经济尽快复苏的愿望是一致的。中国国家主席习近平今年6月曾经表示，中国愿同合作伙伴一道，把“一带一路”打造成团结应对挑战的合作之路，维护人民健康安全的健康之路，促进经济社会恢复的复苏之路，释放发展潜力的增长之路。在此背景下，新华社、中国经济信息社和国际展望联合会共同举办本届大会，就是希望大家携手努力，共克时艰。新西兰是国际展望联合会的总部所在，也是“一带一路”倡议下南部连接的潜力所在。自从1972年建交以来，中新关系在两国间政策沟通、贸易往来、文化融通中不断得到升级。作为第一个与中国签署“一带一路”相关协议和加入亚洲基础设施投资银行的西方发达国家，新西兰始终走在共建“一带一路”的前列。中国作为疫情后第一个实现经济复苏的国家，也在不断践行共享理念，通过政策措施、研究成果、技术等方面的资源共享，帮助更多国家尽快摆脱疫情阴霾，重回经济发展正轨。本届大会以共享优势资源为主题，正是基于中新两国通过资源共享取得的成功经验，希望汇总和共享更多的优势资源，在更大范围内促进全球经济复苏，实现共同发展。新华社作为中国国家通讯社，肩负着连接内外、沟通世界的使命。我们愿同全球合作伙伴分享我们的优势资源，一是分享我们积累深厚的国际传播经验和创新传播技术。新华社拥有的中国最大、世界领先的新闻采编网络，目前 新华社在海内外有230多个分支机构，拥有一支4000多人的记者队伍，新闻信息采编网络遍布全球，每天24小时不间断用12国语言向全球提供全媒体新闻产品。同时，我们还开发了媒体大脑，建设智能化编辑部，推动人工智能在选题策划、采编、加工、分发、反馈等全流程应用。新华社的传播经验和传播技术可以为全球合作伙伴的国际化发展赋能。二是分享我们的智库资源，为各国经济发展提供智力支持。2019年，新华社与15家中外智库共同发起了“一带一路”国际智库合作委员会，汇集国内外智库关于“一带一路”方面研究成果，更好地促进各国智库间的信息共享、资源共享和成果共享，共同奏响“一带一路”合作共赢的智慧交响曲。三是分享惠及全球用户的公共服务产品。新华社旗下专门从事信息服务的中国经济信息社推出了新华丝路服务平台，可为“一带一路”参与各方提供线上全流程和线下一站式综合信息服务，为打破信息传播障碍，消除信息传播不对称，新华社、新华丝路依托新华社优势传播资源和国内外相关传播渠道，在今年推出了新华企业资讯平台，可为企业提供资讯采集、加工、分布、跟踪、效果反馈等一站式资源发布和推广服务，满足各国企业在中国市场的信息发布需求，帮助企业提高在中国市场的知名度和影响力。朋友们，当前世界经济深度融合，任何一个国家都不能独善其身。面对严酷的疫情，我们更当同舟共济，守望相助，分享优势资源，才能实现共享共荣发展。预祝大会圆满成功，谢谢大家。
谢谢谷秘书长。Our third speaker, who again I'm afraid is unable to be with us today, is my good friend, His Excellency the Ambassador of Indonesia in New Zealand, Mr. Tantowi Yahya. Ambassador Yahya is an ambassador who has come not from the diplomatic service, but from 8 years as a member of parliament in Indonesia, and before that, as a much more widely known individual, someone who was the host of the Indonesian version of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Ambassador Yahya.
Kia ora. A very good afternoon to you all, the participants of the Next Summit 2020. Firstly, I would like to thank the organizing committee for the opportunity extended to me to give remarks on these auspicious occasions. I would also like to congratulate Next Federations for organizing the Next Summit 2020. I believe it is not an easy venture, especially amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. Therefore, I wish Next Summit and all the participants a great success and a productive meeting. When the COVID-19 pandemic subsides, the world is going to look markedly different. Manufacturers worldwide are going to be under greater political and competitive pressures to increase their domestic productions, grow employment in their home countries, reduce their dependence on global supply chains. The challenge for countries will be to make their supply chains more resilient without weakening their competitiveness. In this context, I acknowledge the virtuous missions of Next Federations through the Next Summit in exploring the future directions of international collaborations and building a global platform for integrations and transformations of industrial resources, which I believe would address those challenges aforementioned. Ladies and gentlemen, nowadays, international collaboration and cooperations are needed the most in today's world. Let me reiterate President Joko Widodo's remarks during the UN General Assembly last September, where he emphasized Indonesia's commitment to promote the spirit of cooperations which provide mutual benefit to all parties and leave no country behind. In that sense, I believe revitalization of the world economic activity needs to start by tackling the limits of our global supply chains today. This can only be achieved through international cooperations and multilateral trade with the active participation of all parties. Furthermore, I would like to highlight, even amid this pandemic time, Indonesia welcomes international investment. Indonesia has just passed the Omnibus Law on job creations, which is intended to provide a legislative framework to promote economic development, trade, and investment while balancing environmental concerns within the overall need to meet the economic and social aspirations of Indonesian society. This new set of laws will make all the investment procedures more timely and transparent, as well as provide legal certainty while doing business in Indonesia. The Omnibus Law on job creations also puts Indonesia in a better position to capitalize on shifts in global manufacturing supply chains. The new law, whose scope is wide-ranging, should help to reduce long-standing impediments to doing business by reducing red tape, simplifying land acquisition processes, easing restrictions on foreign investments, loosening labor laws, and providing more incentives to free trade zones. Moreover, Indonesia's industrial ability to produce a vast range of high-quality products also provide trade opportunities for everyone worldwide. Many well-known global brands have outsourced their products from Indonesia. And with more than 270 million population, Indonesia is a very lucrative market for many producing countries. Let me use this opportunity to express my sincere hope that this event may provide a platform for strengthening global innovations, cooperation, and sustainability, which I believe can bring more prosperity and inclusivity to our world today. So finally, congratulations once again for the Next Federation for organizing the Next Summit 2020, and to all participants. I wish you all a very fruitful meeting, and may this summit can become a catalyst to promote more cooperations and collaboration, which lead to prosperity without leaving everyone behind. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. May I now invite the Consul General of the People's Republic of China in Auckland, Mr. Ran Ping, to address us. Consul General Ran Ping was appointed to Auckland last year in 2019 after a long and distinguished career in the Chinese Foreign Service. He came here from being Consul General in Johannesburg and has previously served in the United States, in Australia, and in Finland. Consul General. Thank you.
Thank you.
Denagodo. Distinguished Don Brash, Federal Governor of the New Zealand Reserve Bank, Tony Brownie, former ambassador to China, Turaliki Delamere, former minister, and Mr. Bright O'Reilly, CEO of the EMA. Dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I'm pleased and honored to join you at the next Summit, please allow me to extend warm congratulations to this event. The theme of the summit, sharing advantages resources, is very much in line with the current situation in New Zealand, the Asia-Pacific region, and even the world. In the face of the COVID-19 pandemic and its impact, we should hand in hand share advantages and overcome difficulties to achieve common recovery. It is hoped that delegates can make good use of this platform to hold in-depth discussion on topics of the common interests. The international community is now experiencing turbulence and conflicts. The COVID-19 pandemic is accelerating unprecedented changes in the world, and the international community is faced with choices between multilateralism and unilateralism, cooperation and confrontation. Looking into the future, what impresses us is the endless uncertainty. Nonetheless, we can rest assured that China's steady development remains certain. First, it is certain that China's economy will enjoy stable recovery and enhancement. Since the outbreak of the pandemic, the Chinese government has putting people's life above all, united and led the whole country and the people to relentlessly fight and successfully control the spread. In the meantime, with the government coordinated efforts in resumption of the work and production, China's economy became the first to recover. In the third quarter, from July to September, economic growth rate turns from negative to positive. All these are the result of China's resolute and timely measures of controlling the pandemic, and demonstrate the China's strong momentum of sustainable growth, which can overcome various challenges and potential risks. Today, China is not only the world factory, but also the world market. With the total population of 1.4 billion, China has become the world's largest and most promising consumer market. China has 400 million middle-income people. Moreover, China will completely eliminate poverty and comprehensively build a moderately prosperous society this year. China will remain committed to the principle of openness and make the Chinese market a market for the world, a market for all. Secondly, it is certain that China will keep opening up to the outside world. This year, China proposed a dual circulation development pattern in which domestic economic cycle plays a leading role, while international economic cycle remains its extension and supplement. The purpose is to activate the strong inner power of China's high-quality economic development and to deal with the external uncertainty with China's own certainty. This can bring benefits to both Chinese people and the people of other countries. China has become the largest trading partner of more than 130 countries and ranked the world's largest goods trader. Its global ranking of the ease of doing business rose to the 31st last year. Even in the face of the pandemic, the pace of China's opening up is accelerating. In the next 5 years, China will expand its opening up at a higher level, create a market oriented and legalized environment for business. Third, it's certain that China will push forward win-win cooperation in international relations. The economic globalization is undergoing profound changes. However, its fundamental direction will not change. We believe that promoting growth of a strong, balanced, sustainable, and inclusive world economy is the common aspiration of human beings. As a practical platform for promoting win-win cooperation, the Belt and Road Initiative improves the existing international order and international rules, underpinned by the principles of extensive consultation, joint contribution, and shared benefit. The future of mankind and all nations lies in cooperation rather than confrontation. The zero-sum game, which treats other countries as opponents or even enemies, has no way out. No matter how the international situation evolves, China will stay committed to the path of peaceful development and firmly advance win-win cooperation with other countries, facilitate sound development of globalization, and safeguard international justice. 15th November witnessed the signing of the RCEP, the world's largest free trade agreement. This is a victory for multilateralism. The RCEP will provide new impetus of development and prosperity to the region and make new contribution to the recovery and growth of the world. Ladies and gentlemen, China has always been a builder of the world peace and contributor to global development and defender of the international order. China will provide the great power of the new development pattern with deeper reforms and higher level of opening up. Recently, the CPC Central Committee approved the 14th five-year plan for national economic and social development and the long-range objectives through the year 2035, outlining the blueprint for China's development in the next 5 to 15 years. China will embark on a new journey to fully build a modern socialist country, to enter a new stage of development. A sustained and stable development of China in coming years will surely bring vast space for mutually beneficial cooperation to New Zealand and other countries in the world. We are ready to work with New Zealand to tap the potential of cooperation in various fields and provide impetus to our respective economic recovery and sustained growth. We welcome entrepreneurs from every country to seize the opportunity and to take an active part in China's development and the joint construction of the Belt and Road Initiative, so as to achieve greater mutual benefit and win-win cooperation and win-win outcomes. I wish today's summit a great success. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much, Consul General. Our final speaker for the opening ceremony is Mr. Brett O'Reilly. Brett worked for 20 plus years in New Zealand and internationally in the telecommunications and IT sector. He returned to New Zealand from Australia in 2009 as the founding chief executive of New Zealand Information and Communication Technology, NZCICT. He then became the founding Deputy Chief Executive of the Ministry of Science and Innovation, subsequently Chief Executive of ATI, the Auckland Tourism Events and Economic Development Agency. He is now the Chief Executive of the Employers and Manufacturers Association here in New Zealand. Thanks, mate. Thanks.
Kia ora tātou, no mai haere mai piki mai. Can I acknowledge Mātua Tuareki Delamere? Nice to see you here today, and many of the other dignitaries here, Daja Hao, Neman Hao. Great to be here and celebrating this event with Next Federation. I also want to just say at the outset, I'd like to welcome and congratulate many of the businesses that are here today that are doing business between New Zealand and China. If we've ever seen the importance of the trade relationship between the two countries, we've seen it in the last few months. And once again, that relationship with China and that two-way trade between China and New Zealand has underpinned our economic prosperity. In the very early days of COVID-19, when we talked about the risk that the New Zealand economy was facing, I was involved in many calls with senior ministers in the government. One of the constant questions we asked with ministers and officials is what's happening in China. And very fortunately, China's ability to deal with COVID-19 and get their economy back on its feet, for many of us here, proved to be the saving of jobs for New Zealanders, and continuing for our economy to perform well. And I think that just talking to one of the CEOs of one of our leading banks a couple of weeks ago, remarkably, she was telling me that their business customers have actually paid more tax in the July to September quarter this year than they paid last year. And a big part of that is the relationship between New Zealand and China, and that's not something that's lost on me at all. China for me became part of my lexicon and I guess my business life actually back in the 1980s. Some of you may know that I worked in the New Zealand government at that time, and it was in 1985 when the late Mike Moore, who was one of the ministers that I worked for, took a trade mission to Beijing. And it was during that trade mission that there was an event where the mission met with Deng Xiaoping, and Deng Xiaoping at that stage set out for us the vision of the future of China, and not just the future of China as a country, but the future of China as a multilateral participant in the Pacific. And I guess when I think about it, I've seen that vision come to life in an incredible way, from going to places like Shenzhen in the early 1990s when it was a small fishing village in a very large construction site. If you think you've seen construction sites in Auckland at the moment, you needed to be in Shenzhen in 1992. So that's been I think incredible to see. And as Tony mentioned, I've spent a lot of time working in the technology sector, a lot of time working with Chinese technology suppliers, including Huawei and ZTE. And it's also good to see represented here today people who are involved in the innovation system, because I think it's often missed that we work very closely with China in science and innovation, and increasingly around investment in that space. And I think the key thing to me about the summit today and the work that our partner Next Federation are doing is our relationships maturing to that point where we're starting to build different sorts of bridges. There's been a common view that I guess the relationship has been one way, and that's been about New Zealand exporting to China, but I think that's quite misleading. And we've seen in the last 11 years that I've been back in New Zealand, the entrepreneurial class in New Zealand. Many young Chinese who are second generation New Zealanders, or they've been students. Some represented here today who are investing in innovation in New Zealand, partnering with our universities, partnering with our science system, and forming that bridge between New Zealand and not just China, but the whole Asian region. Because you only have to be to Fujian and to meet the Fujianese to know that they're everywhere in this region, including here in Auckland, Tamaki Makaurau. I think so. The Next Federation plays a really important role in that, and since I've joined the EMA last year, we've tried to be part of that bridge building as well. We established a Chinese business centre, and I'd like to thank many of the Chinese business representatives here today who have helped with that. Frank Shu, who's on our advisory board, Frank's here. So, and they've been very instrumental in helping us. We're 134 years old as an association, so we've been around a long time, but helping us understand how to adapt to dealing with Chinese businesses, how to help them encourage, and equally how to help New Zealand businesses plug into the Chinese business networks, understand that a lot of people talk about Amazon. Let's talk about Alibaba and talk about how that can play a key role in the New Zealand economy as it's starting to do. And Anna Lee's here with me today, who runs the Chinese Business Centre for us. And without giving anything away, because it's not appropriate to make announcements at this, we have some really exciting announcements coming up about the future of the Business Centre and how we want to take that to the next level. So I'm very excited about the future. I'm very excited about the opportunity for the New Zealand-China relationship to grow in that spirit of multilateralism, in that spirit that's underpinned by the CCTPP and by the RCEP agreement. And I never cease to be amazed about the contribution that many of the businesses here are making in their local communities. And I just want to finish by thanking Arthur and Nick from Allied Whaksi, who very kindly gave me a little shout out earlier when they were their presentation. And they're one of our members, and they produce, I think, some of New Zealand's best ice cream, and I see some of it's here. And you might say that we support them because they're an exporter, but actually we support them because they've taken a disused dairy factory, they've taken a leap of faith and established an ice cream business in a very run-down community that had no jobs in the Hauraki Plains, and they have transformed that community with jobs and prosperity there. And they are the stories that aren't often told enough about how trade and business goes between our two countries. And I see that, in horticulture, I see that in food production, and increasingly see that in services as well. So thank you all for the opportunity to speak with you today. Thank you to the Next Federation for putting on this summit, and for New Zealand to be part of this global discussion, which is so important for our future. And to all of the companies here, keep up the great work for New Zealand. Kia ora, everyone.
Thank you very much, Brett. That brings us to the end of our opening ceremony, and we move now to a range of speakers giving us keynote speeches, keynote addresses on the theme for this summit. Now, in a spirit of friendship rather than criticism, let me say that the theme, as it's outlined in English, of sharing advantaged resources, 优势资源共享. The theme in English, I think better, is probably something along these lines. It is harnessing our complementary resources for our mutual benefit. That is what this is about. And now our first speaker at this opening ceremony is the former Prime Minister of Egypt, His Excellency Dr. Issam Sharaf. Dr. Sharaf is now the President of the Next Federation. He was Prime Minister of Egypt in 2011 after a distinguished career as an engineer, including time as Egypt's Minister of Transportation. Dr. Sharaf.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, based on your location now. It's my pleasure to be with you virtually, and I hope next year we get together physically. I'll start my presentation now. Let me share my screen. The title of my presentation is No Need to Reinvent the Wheel, meaning that we have to utilize and maximizing the utilization of what we have already. As you know, we are connected and should remain connected. Problems like financial crisis in 2008, COVID-19 currently, and climate change, this continuous problem, and other, we faced and we will face global threats because we are connected and should remain connected, and we have to respond accordingly. The main message of my presentation is saying that when facing global challenges like COVID-19 and other global threats, we should not reinvent the wheel. And I believe that there is a very good mechanism for global cooperation called Belt and Road Initiative. I'm sure that all of you know it. And we're trying to use or share the advantages, capability of this initiative. What we need actually is an orchestrated cooperation mechanism capable of fighting the current pandemic, facing future health and other global threats, and of course, while we are facing threats, we should work on motivating economic and social development. The cooperation mechanism or the global cooperation mechanism should be based on two pillars. First, a motivator for global trust and cooperation. Second, a platform for systemizing global partnership. So, what I call it sometimes virtue management platform. How we can use all the available advantage of different countries, different institutions, different regions. So actually sharing advantages, capabilities. And the cooperation mechanism, as I said, for me is the Belt and Road Initiative, BRI. First, the motivator, a community of shared future, which actually can motivate our international cooperation and trust. These are some milestones. In 2013, President Xi indicated to this concept in Moscow State Institute, in his speech in Moscow State Institute of International Relations. In 2013, of course, in his announcement of the Belt and Road Initiative. In 2017, in his speech at Davos World Economic Forum. In 2018, United Nations General Assembly adopted the concept. 2018 also the constitutional amendment adopted by the 13th National People's Congress of China. Also it included this concept. Also in the 2018, in the 19th National Congress of the CBC, President Xi reaffirmed the concept and elevated it to strategic level for China's future diplomacy. What I want to say here is that the concept, it is adopted in China in constitution and also as the pillar of foreign diplomacy or foreign policy of China, but also it is adopted internationally by the United Nations General Assembly, as I said. So it's not new. So I can say that no need to reinvent the wheel. Now we move to the second pillar, which is a platform for international cooperation, PRI, as a platform for international cooperation. How it works, this is a mechanism. This is a very brief introduction to the mechanism of working under the umbrella of Belt and Road Initiative. First, synergy. If we have a project that between 2, 3, or 4 countries, then there should be at the first step is to synergize different items, policies, trade and investment facilitation, financial management, and people to people. Actually, these are the pillars of success or failure. A lot of good construction failed to achieve its function because there is no synergy in all or one of these items. So how we cooperate? Who are the partners under this umbrella? The partners are countries or regions, of course, international organizations, multilateral enterprises, NGOs, and academia. For example, currently there are more than 160 countries and international organizations having some kind of agreements or MOUs with China under the umbrella of the Belt and Road Initiative. Multilateral, by the way, 19 of the United Nations organizations are among these international organizations. Multilateral enterprises like General Electric, Siemens, and so forth. Of course, NGOs, we have a network for cooperation of networks of non-government organizations of Silk Road roads called ZeroNet. It includes about 400 NGOs and so forth. There are more than 20 sectors like taxes, like environment, like financial, and so forth. So each one of these is by itself a mean of cooperation. And the sub-platforms, or actually the characteristics of projects between 2 countries or more, or whatever the project is, it should be green, clean, digital, innovation, or health, and call it Silk Roads. The projects could be economic corridors like China-Pakistan economic corridor, or the 6 economic corridors that came actually in the beginning of announcement of the Belt and Road Initiative that connects from the very east to the very west, from China to Europe, and also through the Asian countries, and also from north to south. So it could be economic corridors, or regional projects, or national, or third-party markets. Third-party markets are very important. Actually, during the last summit of Silk Road Summit in April 2019, there are 14 countries like maybe Australia, New Zealand, and some other European countries. They signed the third-party market, like, for example, a country like Australia or Germany can cooperate with China to do project in Africa, or to do project in Latin America, for example. So this is a very important. So this is the mechanism. As you can see, it's very comprehensive and very detailed, and it covers a lot of issues that are required or are very essential to global cooperation. So no need to reinvent the wheel. Let me show you an example that, since we are facing now a health threat, then let me see, is the health issue is considered in the Belt and Road Initiative? If we refer to the vision and action on jointly building Belt and Road issued in 2015, this is the basic document of BRI. It says like that. It says like, we should strengthen cooperation with neighboring countries on epidemic information sharing, the exchange of prevention and treatment technologies, and the training of medical professionals, and improve our capability to jointly address public health emergencies. So this is 5 years ago, before before the epidemic. The BRI was expecting and ready for that. And there is a conference in Beijing under the title Towards a Health Silk Road in 2017, and the Health Road Communique, Health Silk Road Communique was signed by 64 countries. So again, that was a preparation for facing, to be ready for facing such global threats. And in forum, for example, it was regional cooperation, Forum on China-Africa Cooperation, FOCAC, and in 2017, President Xi, in his speech, identified 8 initiatives, cooperation initiatives between China and Africa under the umbrella of Belt and Road Initiative. The initiative number 6 is called a Health Care Initiative. That was in 2017. When the COVID-19 pandemic happened, then in an extraordinary summit in 2020, this healthcare initiative was reaffirmed, and actually action plan was took place to help African countries. So what I meant here is actually that the mechanism is there and actually is working. So there is no need to reinvent the wheel. Ladies and gentlemen, to conclude, we have a challenge. The world is at crossroads, either to continue business as usual or to use the shared future approach. Shared future approach means that we should all feel responsibility, we trust each other, we work together and gain together. So if we continue business as usual, usually maybe some of you saw that before, we will get to a situation where we have a substantial risk of existence, our existence. But if we use the shared future approach, then we might get to something like that, where we have a global harmonized civilization. So it is time to emphasize that the global challenges we are facing and will face require a global cooperation with no exception. Because, as I said, we are connected and should remain connected. It is time to select between multilateralism or unilateralism, cooperation or domination, free trade or protectionism, coexistence or superiority, mutual understanding or arrogance, trust or prejudice, openness or seclusion, control divergence or widen the gap, dialogue or confrontation, negotiation or bullying, civilizations understanding or civilizations clash. This is the issue. We have to select the green or the red. What we need is a harmonious civilization, because the destruction to moral values and environment under the current civilization should be the legitimate reason to have a more harmonious civilization through global understanding, trust, and cooperation. And let me finish by quoting what has been concluded in the Parliament of the meeting of the Parliament of the World's Religion in 2018. And they said that the future we embrace will be a new ecological civilization and a world of peace, justice, and sustainability. With the flourishing of the diversity of life, we will build this future as one human family within the greater Earth community. So we should think, work to benefit together. And remember that the future is not a time we wait for. The future is a reality we make. And thank you very much. thank you very much. And again, I hope that we can meet next year together. And I would like to thank all of you and thank the organizers of this event for their great job. Thank you very much.
Now, the first of our keynote speakers is a very well-known New Zealander, Dr. Don Brash. Dr. Brash was governor of our Reserve Bank for nearly 14 years. He was leader of the National Party and leader of the opposition. He later became leader of the ACT Party in Parliament. He has had a prominent place in New Zealand public life for 40 years. He brings all that experience to us today, but he is speaking in a more recent role. For the last 7 years, he has been the first and only chair of the ICBC, the bank, since it's been established here in New Zealand. Dr. Brash. Thanks.
Your Excellency, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I greatly appreciate the honour of speaking to you here today. I want to begin by looking back on the year which has passed. It's been a tough year for a great many people.
Let me have a look.
We have not had any major
Johnson.
war, but a continuation of a number of smaller but quite brutal conflicts in many parts of the world. And of course, from the very beginning of the year, we've seen a virus sweep around the world, killing many thousands of people. Nobody knows how many people have been killed by the virus. Johns Hopkins University's latest estimate is that it has killed some 1.3 million people in the world. In the United States alone, more than 250,000 people have been killed by the virus. And The Economist magazine, comparing average death rates over the last few years with the death rate this year, believes the actual death rate caused by the virus has been quite a lot higher than 250,000. And in many other countries too, there is no way of being sure just how many people have been killed by the virus. And others, of course, have had long-lasting health effects because of it. We know that in many countries, the economic consequences of measures taken to control the virus have been devastating. Most developed countries suffered a very severe fall in the second quarter of this year, and in some cases, that led to a very, very sharp spike in unemployment, to almost 15%, for example, in the United States. Central banks in most countries have tried to soften the blow, but because policy interest rates were very low by historical standards even before the pandemic, the aftermath of the global financial crisis, most central banks had limited room to cut interest rates. In New Zealand, for example, because the central bank cut interest rates by some 500 basis points in response to the GFC, there wasn't much room to cut rates when the pandemic struck. Instead, governments have been obliged to embark on massive fiscal stimulus, leading to a rapid escalation in public sector debt in all countries. How long this quite extraordinary fiscal stimulus can continue before investors become uneasy about holding more government bonds is one of the great unanswered questions. And to complicate an already difficult situation, the world had in the most powerful office on the planet a man who seemed more intent on ensuring the share market continued to rise than on taking any responsibility for controlling the pandemic, even within his own country, let alone coordinating international efforts to deal with it. the whole world has paid a terrible price. But as this year nears its end and we peer ahead into the new year, there are some encouraging signs. Notwithstanding a resurgence of COVID-19 cases in many countries, there are encouraging signs that many economies are beginning to pick up speed. And that appears to be particularly true in China and this part of the world. China and the countries of Southeast Asia appear to have kept the virus under control much more effectively than the countries of Europe and the Americas. And while the IMF is still projecting that most countries will see an overall decline in GDP in calendar 2020, China appears certain to have grown somewhat during this year, albeit by less than projected before the virus arrived. At this stage, it seems likely that China will continue to grow strongly into the new year, and this is good news for all the countries in the region which depend on China as a market for their exports. In addition, it now seems probable that before many months have passed, we will see one or more vaccines available to many millions of people, initially to healthcare workers and other vulnerable people, but gradually to many millions more.
Could one of you take a
If
picture when
so,
I'm
we can
speaking up
expect
there?
most economies to start growing again,
No, when I'm
and
speaking.
industries particularly hard hit by the pandemic, such as tourism, international education,
You know
and
how to use
hospitality, to grow quite rapidly.
No, it's got to go.
By late January, moreover, the White House will be occupied by a man who wants to re-engage with the rest of the world, a man who will probably adopt a more constructive attitude to international trade and institutions like the World Trade Organization, and as indicated, he will seek to have the US resume its membership of the World Health Organization, and that's good news for everybody. Having said that, it's important to be realistic. One of the scariest books I have ever read was written by an historian called Graham Allison, Harvard University. He wrote a book called Destined for War: Can America and China Escape Thucydides' Trap? The book was published 3 years ago. After devoting the first chapter to describing China's phenomenal economic growth over the last 40 years, the author examines 16 historical cases, all from the last 500 years, when a dominant power was challenged by a rising power. In 12 of those cases, war between the challenger and the dominant power was the result. In only 4 cases was the challenge managed without war. The theme of the book is that today, the United States is still the dominant power, economically and militarily, but is being challenged by the very rapid growth of China. Can these two great powers avoid a war which would be cataclysmic for them both, and indeed for the world as a whole? At the time the book was published, Henry Kissinger, the man who of course visited China in 1971 and laid the path for President Nixon to visit China in 1972, commented that, and I quote, "I can only hope that the US-China relationship becomes the 5th case to resolve itself peacefully rather than the 13th to result in war," unquote. At the same time, the man who will become president of the US in late January said that the book, quote, "lays out one of the defining challenges of our time, managing the critical relationship between China and the United States." In some ways, the potential for disaster is exacerbated by the way in which the two countries see themselves. China, with a proud history dating back millennia, felt humiliated by European powers in the 19th century and by Japan in the 20th. It is understandably determined not to be humiliated by the United States in the 21st century. The United States is a comparative newcomer on the world stage, but sees itself as the leader of the world order, a light unto the world in an almost religious sense. Neither country will be inclined to retreat in the face of perceived threats. Contemplating this situation from a position in the South Pacific, I'm reminded of the old African proverb, when two elephants fight, it is the grass that suffers. China, as the Consul General mentioned, is now the largest trading partner for over 130 countries, including all the major Asian economies. The United States retains enormous economic influence throughout the world, in addition to its obvious military power. What this means is that all of us in this region, indeed all of us in the entire world, have a vital, in fact unsurpassed interest in a peaceful resolution of China's rise and challenge to the United States. It must be hoped that small countries, which have long had cordial relationships with both powers, such as perhaps New Zealand and Singapore, can play a constructive role. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Brash, for those very thoughtful comments. Now may I invite His Excellency Senator Salim Madviwala, the Deputy Chairman of the Senate of the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, to speak to us. Senator Madviwala was previously President of the Board of Investment and Minister of State for Investment of Pakistan, a position he held for 5 years until 2013. He was then appointed Minister of Finance. He has been the Deputy Chair of the Senate since 2018.
Honorable members of parliaments, excellencies, scholars, experts, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, a very good day. It is a great honor and privilege for me to address such a diverse set of people from all over the world in our bid to forge partnerships to achieve our collective goals in the COVID-19 situation. The COVID-19 pandemic might have limited of physical interactions, but it has also unleashed a sheer power of information, technology to unite and bring the world closer than ever before. The organization of this session is truly a great feat, and the issues under the discussion need not just our urgent attention but sustainable strategies and global cooperation for maximum benefit to the world. I congratulate the Federation China Economic Information Service of Xinhua News Agency and their partners for playing such an active and constructive role in this difficult time. I have high hopes that such a forum will continue to provide similar great opportunities for us to truly act and work hand in hand like the global citizens that we now are. Ladies and gentlemen, COVID-19 barged into our lives as a real eye-opener. It showed in just a matter of days how small virus can cripple our lives and lock us away in our homes, and how it can redefine our everyday norms from eating to doing groceries. So much that the post-corona world will forever be starkly different from the pre-corona world. And unless a reliable and effective cure or vaccine can be developed, we'll have to find alternate ways to stay safe and continue with our lives. Above all other impacts, I believe the global economy has taken the biggest hit. I must add here that COVID-19 has affected each segment of the global society differently, and the economic impact on the privileged segments greatly differ from its impact on the poor segments of the society, leaving the poor most vulnerable. The perpetual cycle of economic distress and suffering at the international and national levels further added to the challenge of hunger and poverty. And when you are hungry and poor, you will resort to any means to provide for your family and your children. And if socio-economic systems don't settle down, and thus crime rates will go up and crime will keep increasing. However, I am proud to state that Pakistan bounced back with its smart lockdown and curbed the number of COVID infections. Our collective efforts were enough to resume almost a normal life with precautions, and Pakistan set a benchmark in doing so, which even the United States took as an example. Ladies and gentlemen, we are facing newer and newer challenges every day, and instead of panicking, we should explore new, innovative means and methodologies to keep our socio-economic machinery running smoothly. This is where we need good leadership and collaborative effort, above all, personal and political bias to overcome our collective challenges and find sustainable and long-lasting solutions. Parliaments, as governing institutions, are the beacon of light of their nations. As a parliamentarian, I feel that parliaments around the world must take an inventive lead and act swiftly to adapt to these changing times in general. Most importantly, we must further enhance and solidify our bilateral and multilateral relations based on trust and transparency, so that we can skip that many trials and errors and learn from each other's experience. This strategy will help catalyze many efforts to attain peace, prosperity, and socio-economic progress. However, parliamentarians alone hold no power. We must work together to better equip the healthcare, civil society, media, industry, and businesses. Agriculture, information technology is very important in this COVID-19 situation, so that we can work to uplift the economic, social, physical, and mental well-being of our people. Ladies and gentlemen, in the end, I believe that in order to dilute the chaos all around us, we as leaders must empower institutions, legislate to safeguard the rights of our people, to eliminate injustice and discrimination. I say so because in most cases, injustice and discrimination are the root cause of most of our problems. I also strongly believe that the civil society and the think tanks around the world must play a major role in creating awareness on issues that hold our progress back as a global civilization. I would like to emphasize again on social media, which has turned into one of the most powerful tools to bring practical changes in the society. Collaborations between parliamentarians, young activists, and the social media can grant much needed strength to overcome many challenges, including climate change. I assure you that parliamentarians are always willing to extend their complete cooperation and assistance to all stakeholders, even our participation here in testimony to our commitment and trust in you. We must all reasonably work together to help improve our country's relations with one another beyond any goals for personal gains. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, for now, our first priority must be to save lives and prevent the spread of this horrific disease that is COVID-19. However, we must not lose sight of our global targets and keep all channels open for the best possible outcomes. I would also like to mention about myself, because I also went through this disease, and the 4 weeks of this disease in my life I can never forget. They will remind me for all my life what I went through in these 4 weeks while I was affected by COVID-19. I am confident that Next Federation, along with its partners, will continue to play a constructive and productive role in bringing the world closer together on all fronts. Let us all towards putting humanity above and beyond any national, regional or socio-cultural borders, and the rest will surely follow. I thank you and would like in the future to participate myself in this summit of yours, and I look forward to receiving any input. I am confident that the Next Federation, along with its partners, will continue to play a constructive role in bringing the world closer together on all fronts, and we can physically meet to discuss face to face the challenges faced by the world. Ladies and gentlemen, I also want to mention about my COVID experience, because I suffered from COVID-19 and it was the most difficult 4 weeks of my life which I went through with COVID-19, and it is only when you fall victim to COVID-19 you realize how difficult this disease is, because there is no medication, there is nothing that you can do during this COVID-19 situation. And a lot of our parliamentarians fell sick from COVID-19. Some of them lost their lives even. So even in Parliament, and today also our Parliament suffers from the same attacks that they had previously of COVID-19 due to the second wave. So I feel we need to fight this together. There should not be any discrimination in thinking that you can fight it better than me. So we all have to join hands and make sure we defeat this terrible disease. Thank you.
And it's my honour now to invite our next speaker, the Honourable Dr. Hamam Risa, to speak to us. Dr. Risa is the rotating president of the International Advisory Committee of the Next Federation. He is chairman of the Agency for the Assessment and Application of Technology in Indonesia.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I am Hamam Riza, chairman of the National Agency for the Assessment and Application of Technology, Republic of Indonesia. It is my pleasure to be here in this honor forum. My gratitude to the Next Federation for inviting me to have this valuable opportunity to deliver my speech. In Indonesia itself, the confirmed cases have reached more than 400,000, and that is including more than 14,000 deaths. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, in order for us to prevent the spread of pandemic, we need to wear masks, doing the social and physical distancing, and wash our hands, and all of these measures have been practiced worldwide. It leads to reducing greatly face-to-face activities and doing things without direct contact with others. There is even a word for it. We call this UNTAC, a combination of a prefix un and the word contact. The UNTAC requires digital transformation in almost all aspects of our life, which leads to what we call less contact society, less contact economy, and even less contact government services. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, based on the statistic, globally there are 4.3 billion internet users worldwide, which is 57% of the world population, out of which 3.5 billion are active social media users And meanwhile, there are 5.1 billion mobile internet users, where 2.2 billion are mobile social media users. Looking into Indonesia, out of 268 million population, around 56% or 150 million people are internet users, and they are all active social media users. Even we have the numbers of mobile internet users, which is more than the population of Indonesia. Exactly 355 million mobile internet users, which means a person can have more than one mobile devices or gadgets. And in that number, 130 million are mobile social media users. The COVID-19 pandemic has really accelerated the use of digital transformation. Indonesia has set a strategy for digital transformation development for 2020-2024. It is a mainstream in our national midterm planning. There are 6 main strategies, namely expansion of broadband, integration of e-services and infrastructures, utilization of ICT infrastructures, strengthening digital talents, strengthening the national ICT industry, and certainly adoption of other related technology, including the Industry 4.0. In the long run, by 2025, it is projected that our digital economy will be the source of economic growth. Exactly in 2035, this digital economy will be the main driver of our innovation-based economy, while in 2045, Indonesia will be as one of the top economies, a world-class center for creative and digital economy. This area, driven by digital transformation, will include cities and regions, will be including how we handle our energy, disaster prevention and mitigation, healthcare, agriculture, logistics, manufacturing, as well as finance and public services. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this pandemic also bring an impact of a new normal for consumer society. There are 4 transitions of consumer behavior focus on basic needs, new lifestyles at home, transition to a digital way of our working, increasing the empathy to help each other. The activities will include almost all of our activities, working from home, schooling from home, and as well as online shopping and other activities. On the other hand, the impact of this digital economy will at least, but not limited to, will increase the use of e-banking, financial technology, e-commerce, digital marketplace, etc. Digital transformation for public service can be implemented through an electronic government, e-gov. E-government is an initial phase of technology in government towards smart and digital government. Smart government is the process of digital innovation using open data embedded deeply across the entire government, with buy-in and leadership from the top tier of policymakers. The innovation process is predictable and repeatable even in the face of disruption or sudden events that require rapid response. So smart government is definitely digital government. Ladies and gentlemen, Indonesia is building the national digital infrastructures, which will include cloud computing, provide faster access to data, software, and analytical capabilities. That means big data analytics will turn data into insight, and it will give us the opportunity to innovate in the digital world. Internet of Things and robotics, which are able to analyze various data in real time from various IoT sources. It will send this through the wireless sensor network into a robot-based manufacturing system capable of automatic work. And artificial intelligence can be used to provide automation to this process. So currently, Indonesia is ready to launch our Indonesia National Strategy on Artificial Intelligence to provide guideline for AI toward Indonesia Vision 2045. This strategy consists of ethics and policy, AI talent development, infrastructures and data, research and industrial innovation, as well as 5 priority programs that will enable our focus on healthcare, bureaucratic reform, education and research, food security, and mobility, as well as smart city. The use of AI aims to increase the productivity in businesses, to increase productivity for the investment, and to increase the productivity in the utilization of human resources, and to encourage innovation in the various priority sectors. We highlight our roadmap of making Indonesia 4.0, the formation of innovation ecosystem, which is a very important aspect in order for us to achieve our greater cause toward Indonesia 2045. So this ecosystem will include academy, businesses, industry, government, communities, as well as all the private sectors, enabling the synergy and the collaboration among these pentahelix stakeholders to develop our artificial intelligence and other related industry 4.0 technologies such as IoT, big data, cloud computing toward the Indonesia 2045. Ladies and gentlemen, in closing, I wish that this coming next Summit 2020 or Sky 2020 will produce fruitful results, and we will be able to always collaborate and cooperate that benefit all of us. I wish you the best event for this next summit meeting, and I wish you a prosperous and healthy year to come. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
It's now my honor to invite Professor Chen Junshu, Academician of the Chinese Academy of Engineering, Deputy Chair of the Expert Committee on Foods of the Food Safety Commission of China's State Council, and Chief Advisor to the China National Center for Food Safety Risk Assessment, to speak to us. Dr. Chen is a graduate of the Beijing Medical College, and he has been engaged in nutrition and food safety research for over 50 years at the Institute of Nutrition and Food Safety, at the Chinese Center for Disease Control and Prevention, and in his current role at the National Center for Food Safety Risk Assessment. Professor Chen.
各位朋友，今天我给大家分享一下新冠肺炎和食品安全到底有什么关系。这是一般老百姓都很关注，因为现在最近，特别是最近的媒体的报道，这个海鲜市场、海鲜加工厂的新冠肺炎病毒核酸的阳性的检出。那么我想我们首先要明确几个概念，然后再讨论一些科学问题。第一个，应该说是国内外的专家都一致、非常明确的看法，就是新冠肺炎它是一种呼吸道的传染病，它不是实验性疾病。从这个意义上来讲，它不是食品安全问题。那么具体的说，什么叫实验性疾病呢？譬如应该我们老百姓所熟悉的名词叫做食物中毒，譬如我们的食品污染了沙门氏菌，吃了以后拉肚子，那么这个叫做实验性的疾病。那么这个是看来新冠肺炎跟这个确实不是一回事儿，因为新冠肺炎现在一致的看法是一种动物源性的传染病，也就是说它有动物作为宿主和中间宿主，那么传给人。譬如说禽流感，除了新冠肺炎以外，这种动物源性的传染病我们熟悉的就是禽流感。禽是鸡，但是发病的是人得了流感。所以第一个概念，从食品安全的定义来讲，新冠肺炎不是食品安全问题。那么连着来讲，新冠肺炎会不会通过食品来传播呢？这个现有的科学知识是世界卫生组织的陈述都认为不会通过食品来传播。很多国家的政府的权威机构都声称新冠肺炎不会通过食品传播，但是他们也共同的认为，新冠肺炎的病毒在整个的疫情期间，这个病毒污染食品是非常可能的。那么我想这是引用一下世界卫生组织今年2月份的一个情景报告。这个报告说，尽管有人担心新冠病毒能够通过食物传播，尤其是生的动物性的食品，但是到目前为止并没有这方面的证据。这个包括世界上的这么多几百万上千万的病例，没有发生过这个是食品传染给人。中国的过去的这个疫情我们有8万多个病人，也没有发现过通过食品来传播。但是新发地的给了我们一个思考，因为有了这么一些阳性，因为在世界上的其他地方都没有他们没有功夫去查它的食品和环境到底有没有病毒污染。他们也传播了点滴，但是没有去从溯源的角度。但是由于新发地的这个流行病学的调查的条件并不很好，资源不是很丰富，所以到后来时机已经错过，所以只是留下了2个悬念，一个是人传人，一个是食品传人。这2个都有一定的根据，因为它排除了其他地方来的，那就是北京本地的啦。北京本地的，那么哪里来的呢？不知道，不是武汉，也不是北京本地，那么从哪里来不知道。所以这个调查呢也还在继续进行，我们可以进一步期待看很好的结果。那么现在我在这里要插一句，也就是说，我们新发地的到此为止了，可能没有更多了。我们可以期待的这次大连的调查，因为大连的也是在一个这个新发地是 食品的批发市场，而大连呢，它是一个加工厂。这个进口食品，特别是主要进口的就是海鲜，大连的海鲜食品进口，它有一个很大的加工厂，它这个加工厂就主要加工进口的海产品，而偏偏是这个加工厂发病了，它的职工，包括海鲜加工车间的这个职工，这是主要的，还有他这个不是海鲜加工，他的办公室的后勤人员，但是他也去车间。同时，这些人的，因为他还是要下班的嘛，他们的家庭成员和其他的密切接触者，也就是说，大连到目前为止还是很清楚，据说也在大面积的采样和检测，也发现了阳性样品。所以，大连的流行病学的调查，它的深入程度和广泛的程度，都会比新发地来的更好。也就是说，他们抓住了时机。现在结果没有出来，但是更增加了这样一个专家的看法，我们不能排除这条线，也就是说，食品传人。当然，食品主要是食品包装，而真正的食品不一定是，也就是说，不是吃进去的，还是这个啊，那么还是这么一个手摸摸、抠鼻子什么什么。这么一个造成的呼吸道的感染，这是不能排除。当然，有没有这个更深一步的证据，我们这个和世界卫生组织的说法就会有一定的差别。世界卫生组织专家说完全排除了，我们现在不能排除。尽管这个证据还不是，我们还要等发布更多的证据。那么，我想。最后，我来想谈一下关于这个对我们的食品安全有什么影响。我想我的观点是很清楚的：新冠病毒的流行，这个疫情不是食品安全问题，这要清楚的表明，因为它不是一个实验性的疾病，一开始就讲了。但是，并不等于它对我们的食品安全没有影响。你看，它已经污染了食品了，它肯定是污染了食品，而且整个的产业链，它可能都污染了。从原料的生产、这个加工、运输、储藏，一直到销售，整个的食品链，它都污染了。那么，它对我们的食品安全造成了哪些影响？我们应该如何来防控，来消除这个食品安全的对食品安全的影响？这是我下面要讲的。第一个，我们讲现状对食品安全造成哪些影响？第一个影响，从新发地来讲，我们政府采取了一系列的管控措施，马上关闭了新发地的市场。包括大连这个海鲜这个加工企业也马上封闭了，所有的在新发地的海鲜和肉类都销毁了。到目前为止，不是当时马上，而是在一段时间调查以后，都当作这个医学的这个废弃物来进行销毁。在这个开始以后2个礼拜，这个就是采取的措施。应该说，这里面这个还有冷冻保藏的新发地的冷冻保藏的条件还是很不错的，应该有很多很保存很好的食品，但是一律销毁，没有再加工利用。 第二个措施，影响到了所有销售海产品，特别是三文鱼。由于新发地的加工三文鱼的案板上发现了阳性，还不是活的病毒，是核酸阳性，那么影响到了所有的海产品的销售和在餐饮行业的供应，很多连烤鱼店都关门了，不关门他也不卖烤鱼了。同时，我们的检测规模空前，到目前为止，全国各地据说已经有好几十万个这个海鲜样品，不单单是进口的，而且是这个本地的海鲜样品和肉都被检测了，取样查病毒核酸，这笔费用很可观。除了刚才讲到的发生疫情的这些，像大连、北京新发地以外，通通所有的样品的检测都是核酸阴性的。这个根据我的个人的观点，对食品安全影响最大的就是媒体报道的比较混乱。由于刚才这些情况全报道了，所以使消费者的引起了极大的关注。哎呀，我还能不能去买海鲜呢？我还能不能在家来煮海鲜呢？和吃海鲜呢？非常的混乱。所以这样的一些对食品安全的影响，这还不包括像这个薯片，在北京查出薯片的加工企业的工人有确诊，好几个工人确诊，而把薯片也封存起来了。所以一时间我很欣赏这张卡通。这个卡通是说这个是三文鱼，他说这个新冠肺炎我也没有肺，是吧？我不会得肺炎，这是我这个三文鱼每一批都有这个核酸检测报告，我是阴性的啊，你们可以放心吃我。这个说明的一点问题。所以我觉得我们需要明确几个观点。第一，这个确实从新冠病人的粪便里头分离出活的新冠病毒，但是它传播给人的呼吸道造成呼吸道疾病的可能性，我们还是一样不能排除，但可能性应该不是很大，主要还是人传人。超市购物我们很可能会接触病毒，这是没有问题的，也这漏网，对不对？到目前的措施来讲，我们不能保证说进口的海鲜的包装的表面有病毒，不会，这个大部分不会，但是极个别的会不会进入了超市了，我们去买正好是接触了食品，因为食品表面被污染，这是有可能的。那么疫情防控对未来食品安全保障的影响什么？个人防护也是什么？这是我们要考虑的一些问题。所以，我想应该做出一些这个回答。那么，特别是对于超市购物的问题，我认为这个可能性已不能排除，但是应该是很小。怎么办呢？大家不必担心，照样去购物，看见海鲜你想买尽管买，回去以后到家里以后，第一洗手，第二打开包装海鲜包装以后清洗，按照常规用流水来清洗，按照世界卫生组织的食品安全5要素 生熟分开，我们现在不主张你吃生的，所以充分煮食、煮熟，同时在家里面加工过程当中，生熟分开。生的切了以后，这个案板你就清洗，同时彻底清洗，同时你要煮熟了以后，你要再切，一定要用另外一块用切熟食的案板。所以我们在家里，这个你愿意吃海鲜的，去购物，购了海鲜到超市，然后回来以后勤洗手，按照世界卫生组织的5个食品安全5要素的这个规定，我们是把海鲜洗完了以后，切了煮了以后，再要切的熟的海鲜的时候，一定要用另外一块案板，保证生熟分开。所以大家不必太担心，也不要担心到饭店里头吃饭点菜的时候也不必担心，因为饭店也会按照这个卫生操作规程来做。那么，所以这涉及到了个人防护。个人防护，一个是还是要重复，洗手是放在第一位的。第二，生熟分开，要清洁，是吧？这个买的东西一定要保持新鲜，不仅仅是来预防新冠肺炎的传播、病毒的传播，而且对于预防一般的细菌性的实验性疾病都是很有用的。我最后多几点小结，觉得现在需要进一步搞清楚，会不会它是食品是作为一个病毒的载体，这是没有问题的。会不会通过食品被污染的食品感染到人？我们这里最强的证据是要找到活的病毒，现在正在努力。另外，我们的管理的措施应该基于科学，是吧？否则要避免这个浪费、过度的这个销毁，不分青红皂白的销毁食品是不可取的。然后要充分顾及这样的一些和食品相关的信息对人们心理上所造成的影响，过度的担心，所以我们进行适当的科普的宣传教育，对于信息的交流是非常有必要的。最后还要不断的重复世界卫生组织的相关的关于食品加工的一些指南和食品安全的5个要点，是保证食品不被致病性的生物，包括新冠病毒在内污染和保护健康的很重要的措施。好，谢谢。
When I went through the list of sponsors and partners for this summit, I chose to leave for now reference to the summit's principal partner and the supplier of our chief designated product. For those of you who are aware and experienced in the delights of baijiu in China, you'll know that one of China's most well-known liquors from the Shanxi city of Xi'an is Hong Xifang Jiu. And we have in front with us here the most remarkable bottle that I ever remember seeing of baijiu. The Hong Xifang Jiu is, I gather, a promise for later. But we will be joined by Mr. Zhang Zhang, the party secretary and the chairman of the Xifang Group, the chairman of Shanxi Xifang Liquor Company Limited, who has been so generous in providing far too much of his product for us today.
尊敬的各位来宾、朋友们，大家好！今天非常荣幸能够与大家齐聚线上，共襄盛会，探索国际合作中的整合分享优势资源， 促进全球创新合作发展。感谢主办方邀请我作为此次大会的合作方代表与大家进行交流。这场突如其来的疫情让我们深刻认识到，应对挑战的勇气是全人类共同的优势资源，分享应对挑战的勇气是我们战胜疫情、迎接未来的根本希望。在当前国际形势下，“一带一路”的倡议无疑发挥着稳定世界经济的作用，对世界经济增长或联合国可持续发展目标的实现起到了重要的促进作用。当今世界正经历100年未有之大变局，和平与发展仍然是时代的主题。人类命运共同体的理念深入人心，只有加强国际合作，不断推动贸易或投资自由化、便利化，推动共建“一带一路”高质量发展，才能聚合优势资源，实现多方共赢。不论是古丝绸之路还是“一带一路”，西凤酒所在的陕西省均是起点。作为重叠于古今丝路节点上的中国民族品牌，西凤酒承前启后，沉淀了深厚的历史文化底蕴。作为中国4大名酒之一，西凤酒历时3000年无断代传承，是唯一在丝绸之路开创时期就留下佳话的千年佳酿，更是率先重走丝绸之路的知名白酒企业。在“一带一路”的建设过程中，西凤酒承担着传播中国文化的重要使命。中国白酒是中国文化传承与创新的重要载体之一。中国白酒文化基因内涵极为丰富，可以说贯穿的整个中国人文文化、中华传统工业文明的发展历程。文化与经济相互交融，文化日益成为推动经济的重要因素。随着“一带一路”建设的深入推进，中国白酒企业走出去，不只是传播品牌、拓展市场，更是白酒文化、中国文化的走出去。西凤酒通过参与国际展望大会这样的高端平台，主要是向全球推广中国名酒，让中国的民族品牌闪耀世界舞台。近年来，西凤酒积极紧抓“一带一路”机遇，不断提升高产品国际认知，并凭借过硬品质，通过了欧盟最权威的酒类 SGS 检验、北美 FDA 检验、非洲 BV 检验，西凤酒远销海外，成为中国文化、中国品牌、中国制造走出国门、走向世界的典型代表。“一带一路”是一条商贸与文化相互融合之路，除了文化交流，更对经济贸易有推动作用。近些年，西凤酒参与了丝绸之路品牌万里行活动，足迹遍布欧亚大陆，用包容进取、追求卓越、敢为人先的创新精神，向世界传播美酒无国界、幸福共分享的西凤酒文化，不仅促进了文化交流，同时创造了诸多的国际合作的新机遇。正是有了促进全球行业资源整合转化平台的加持，中国白酒企业走出去才能不断的创新发展。国际展望大会迄今已成功举办了3届，每届国际展望大会引介推动产业合作项目达数十个，服务过的企业伙伴或项目来自众多行业。我们希望通过第4届国际展望大会的成功举办，以合合而生为价值观，倡导人类社会分享优势资源，促进国际合作，为“一带一路”建设再度助力。未来，西凤酒将继续积极参与“一带一路”建设，积极走出国门，传播中国名酒文化，不断寻找新的发展契机， 进一步提升西凤品牌在全球的影响力，展示中国制造和白酒文化的无穷魅力。最后，预祝本次大会圆满成功，谢谢大家。
Thank you, Chairman Zhang. Our next speaker here in Auckland will be Simon Tucker. Simon is Director of Global Stakeholder Affairs at Fonterra. He has had a career that has been back and forth between government and the dairy industry. In government, he was High Commissioner, New Zealand High Commissioner in Canada and Councillor in the Embassy in Washington. In the dairy industry, before this current spell at Fonterra's global headquarters, he was General Manager of Dairy New Zealand and Executive Director of the New Zealand Dairy Companies Association. Simon. Is that right, more or less?
Kia ora tātou. Good afternoon, everyone, and ni hao. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. What a wonderful venue, a great event, and even the weather is smiling upon us, so really delighted to be joining us. I'd like to thank the co-hosts, obviously the Next Foundation for the outstanding job that they've done, and to the Xinhua News Agency. And we very much appreciate the recognition for Fonterra and our business taking place here today. Let me just acknowledge the very distinguished guests here amongst us and the honour of sharing this opportunity with a number of fantastic New Zealand companies here with Fonterra today. Just to cover a little bit about Fonterra in China. For our business, China is one of our most important strategic markets, and it accounts for approximately 25% of our global business. Dairy consumption in China continues to grow, and while it's a highly competitive market, the growth in dairy consumption continues to outpace local supply. And we are delighted that when Chinese consumers do want dairy, they buy more from New Zealand than from any other country. Fonterra has been in China for decades. Over that time, our business has evolved significantly to meet the changing demands of that Chinese market. I'm sure it won't be news to any of you that the pace of change in China is very much set to continue. By 2022, only 2 years away, China will be the largest dairy market in the world. China's population, obviously, like many of us, is ageing, and with over 30% of the population will be over 65 by the year 2050. We are seeing amongst consumers this ongoing dramatic move into digital sales channels, whether that's business to consumer or business to business. And we are seeing that Chinese consumers are continuing to trade up in their tastes and demand more and more innovative products. So to be successful in China, Fonterra has invested in a strong core business supported by deep market knowledge and healthy partnerships, and this is the foundation for our future. At the current time, the China business generates over $4 billion of sales for us, but we see that continuing to grow. Our food service business alone is now operating in more than 350 cities across China. China is consistently the largest purchaser of Fonterra ingredients on the global trading platform. Our consumer brands have partnerships with some of the strongest e-commerce players, which are becoming household names not just in China and New Zealand but around the world. So as a result, the new direction for Fonterra in China is an evolution of the strong business we've built, and it's taking it to the next step, the next level I should say, by championing our strengths. And these strengths include our focus on innovation and research and development. We are working hard with our research and development people and our customers to commercialise our IP and stay at the cutting edge of product development. This year we have opened a new research and development facility in Shanghai and a new application centre in Wuhan, and we will continue to roll out our R&D and application centres across China as we grow. We're focusing very much on the provenance that we know our Chinese consumers want, the goodness, the safety, the quality and the environmental sustainability of New Zealand milk. And we're working very hard in China with our customers and our partners there to grow the breadth of the Chinese dairy category. We see the Next Foundation's role as a platform for innovation and transformation, and its commitment to improving global innovation, cooperation and sustainability resonating very strongly with the direction that Fonterra is heading. We intend to deliver value in China by staying in tune with customers and matching our dairy expertise with customer tastes. So over the next few years you will see us continuing to grow our food service business by entering more tier 3 to 5 cities across China. We will continue to invest in China in our innovation ability, and we will strengthen our offerings in the Chinese cuisine. We will do more third-party manufacturing in China, and we have a particular focus on incorporating into the pastry channel, which is a very quickly growing category in China. We will also premiumise our consumer business by leveraging our strong brands and responding to emerging trends with a focus on niche high-value categories. And we will also leverage our IP to deliver new high-value ingredients, in particular probiotics in the sports and active lifestyles area, and paediatric categories, and new functionality targeting health and immunity, which is so relevant in a time as we recover from COVID. I'd just like to touch briefly on the China International Import Expo, or the CIIE. Fonterra is pleased to have participated once again in the CIIE this year, increasing the size of our presence there for the third year in a row. This event is a significant global event which brings together businesses, both domestic and overseas, in a forum for international connection. Fonterra has always considered itself a strong corporate citizen of China. Through our involvement in CIIE, we promote Fonterra to Chinese consumers and become more deeply involved in development of China's dairy industry. At a time when the global trading system is under strain and countries are grappling with their response to COVID-19, we commend China on its championing of international trade and for highlighting the importance of both imports and exports. Fonterra's theme this year for CIIE was Innovation, Health and Immunity. We had a full lineup of Fonterra products across all categories. I'm just going to go in a little bit of detail here. For our consumer brands, we released 4 new products which offer high quality proteins and extra nutrition for a person's full life cycle. These included a probiotics milk powder for adults, an ultra heated treatment low fat milk powder, low fat fluid milk for people who want to become more fit, and we provided upgraded versions of the Anmum Assura brand for new mothers and upgraded version of Anlean for our elderly consumers. For our food service business, we launched 2 new cream products imported from New Zealand. Cheese Pro, which is a mixture of cheese and cream, meaning our customers can save time and streamline work procedure in combining those 2 ingredients at their stores. And we know that the cream cheese macchiato consumers will enjoy that product. We also released an easy topping cream, which is the first ambient cream product we've launched in China. And this can help our customers with cost saving because of the no need for a cold supply chain across the entire chain. And this makes it ideal as we push further and further into inland China. And for our ingredients business, we launched 4 new products. A cream cheese curd that can be used for various dairy food applications such as processed cheese, ice cream and bakery. Whey protein concentrate that provides high protein solutions for yogurt manufacturers. Lipids is a new application for meal replacement, and probiotics for our customers in the infant formula business. So we congratulate China on another very successful CIIE and look forward to continuing to working with China on this important event. So let me just conclude by thanking once again the organisers, Next and Shinha, and once again for the honour of selecting Fonterra as one of your inaugural participants in this event. We have been a part of the Chinese dairy sector for decades, and it is a partnership that we value immensely. We look forward to this partnership continuing to go from strength to strength. Thank you very much. Share, share.
Thank you, Simon. Can I now ask Mr. Michael Fox to speak to us? Michael is the Head of Communications and External Relations at Zespri International. He leads Zespri's external communications, stakeholder engagement, policy, global tours and events, and community investment programs. And he was also, in an earlier life, not all that long ago, Chief Press Secretary to Prime Ministers Sir John Key and Sir Bill English.
Thank you very much, Tony. Can I actually start by acknowledging G Nature? I actually visited your factory many years ago with Sir John Key, not long after you had started, and it's really exciting to see you continuing to do so well, so good on you. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, kia ora, da jia sha wu hao. Good afternoon, it's my pleasure to be with you today in support of your efforts to strengthen ties between China and New Zealand. Zespri also greatly appreciates your efforts to promote New Zealand brands, so thank you. And in the spirit of this event, it's a privilege to be here to talk about Zespri's record of creating strong partnerships with growers around the world, of bringing real and sustainable value to communities and helping deliver jobs and investment. Our way, as the next Federation puts it, of uniting to create. In this case, to create value, new products, and new ways of working together, and to connect growers and consumers with consumers so we can build a world where we succeed together. Zespri has a track record of doing this around the world, in New Zealand, Italy, France, Japan and Korea, where we grow our kiwifruit. And just this week, we signed an agreement with the kiwifruit industry in Sichuan as part of our ambition to do the same there. To deliver on Zespri's purpose of helping people, communities and their environment around the world to thrive through the goodness of kiwifruit. We believe our framework, our way of doing things, which we call our kiwifruit ecosystem, can help the Chinese kiwifruit industry to build on its ambition to deliver for regional communities there. And I'm grateful for the opportunity today to talk more about that. As some background, already we consider ourselves to be members of the community in China. We have 70 staff there and have built strong, trusting and mutually beneficial relationships with our partners there. We were this year given protected brand status in Shanghai. We've supported China's COVID-19 relief efforts and helped to implement childhood nutrition programs in schools. And we're incredibly proud to be working alongside the Chinese government in China to help improve the quality of life of young people there. Today, the region represents around 25% of Zespri's global sales. We've invested in building the Zespri brand in China, turning it into one of the most recognisable in the fresh produce sector, and helping to attract more consumers to the overall kiwifruit category. That's creating opportunities for Chinese growers too. And with kiwifruit making up just 1.5% of globally traded fruit, the opportunity to grow is immense, which makes our trial in China so exciting. It's even more true in the current pandemic. Post-COVID-19, healthy products like kiwifruit, and I should say meat and dairy as well, have a role to play in building back better. Better products and better way of doing things, bigger ideas, and more bold solutions. And while it's been tough, the pandemic has actually sped up or started trends which we do have the opportunity to benefit from. We know, for example, it's accelerated the trend of the more health-conscious consumer. And more so than ever, the health of people and their families are front of mind. Increasingly, people are seeking out healthy food, which gives them the nutrition their bodies need to thrive, and they're saying they'll pay more to ensure they get it. Where once fruit consumption was declining, it's now on the rise again. And importantly, consumers are seeking brands with strong sustainability credentials. That is, brands which put looking after people and planet at the core of their business, as we do. And actually, we're looking at how we can meet more of that demand alongside the Chinese kiwifruit industry. We think it can be done by uniting to create ecosystems, stronger ecosystems, and lifting quality to better meet the needs of consumers. That by developing even higher, healthier, higher yielding and better tasting varieties, we can capitalise on those trends and do a lot of real good for our communities. Under the right circumstances, we can do it together, actually complementing the strategy that the Consul General talked about earlier, but China's dual circulation strategy. We think we can work alongside you. New Zealand kiwifruit industry's success stems from our ecosystem, and that succeeds when every part works together. Its foundation is an incredibly healthy product, delicious and safe. That's strengthened by our growers, passionate, knowledgeable and committed to working together to create healthy, sustainable value and growth for themselves, their communities and the world. There are actually a couple of kiwifruit growers here tonight, so I acknowledge you, Sir Don, Dr. Borsoi and Simon Limmer. That's the thing with the New Zealand kiwifruit industry, they have eyes and ears everywhere. So if I say the wrong thing, I'm going to get a telling off after this. Our ecosystem is actually reinforced by a commitment to quality and the sharing of information and expertise, helping deliver higher yields and greater returns and ensuring only the very best, safest and most valuable fruit gets to market. And critical to all of this is the Zespri brand. It's an assurance that when you choose Zespri kiwifruit, whether it's grown here or elsewhere in the world, that you're buying the best, safest and most consistently highest quality kiwifruit in the world, and that it's grown in a way you can have confidence in. Innovation, another theme of today, is also crucial. So we've established the world's largest kiwifruit breeding program to continue to get better. Developing new, exciting, healthier and more environmentally friendly varieties which meet consumer demand and help meet some of the challenges the world is facing today. Managed properly, they deliver real, ongoing value for consumers and encourage further innovation. That's why we invest so heavily in new variety development, because that does underpin our ongoing success. Underpinning the ability to explore and develop new varieties is the recognition and active enforcement of plant variety rights, essentially horticultural IP. These allow science to progress, providing certainty that that investment will be rewarded. Without plant breeders and those who invest having the ability to recover costs through commercialisation, the innovation and the benefits it brings are severely undermined, and that has a variety of impacts. It prevents the economic benefits derived from new varieties with improved yield or quality, leading to downstream effects on consumer pricing and availability of fruit. It means varieties which have the ability to create real value become undervalued, and the benefits are lost through an imbalance between demand and supply. It leads to boom and bust. Unfortunately, as you know, our proprietary variety is spreading in China, but to manage that, we're seeking a win-win solution with industry in China, or we're seeking to unite to resolve. And we're really pleased to say that we've been having very positive discussions in New Zealand and in China about that, in Beijing and in Sichuan, where they recognise the opportunity and respect the pragmatic approach that we're taking. We've had very positive discussions over dinner recently with Her Excellency Madame Wu Xi, and we appreciate her advice and support, and I acknowledge you too, Mr. Consul General. Our Chief Executive, Dan Matheson, is in China now, and he's been incredibly heartened by those discussions. It's clear there's a real desire in China to build a legal framework which encourages and rewards investment for everyone. And it's clear there's an ambition from the industry in Sichuan to unite with Zespri and to succeed together, creating jobs and opportunities and long-lasting success for local communities in both countries. Our existing partners are also supporting our efforts. So that's what led us this week to sign an MOU with the Sichuan State-Owned Assets Operation and Investment Administration Company Limited. We need an acronym for that one, I think. But that's to explore ways our industries can work together. There's a long way to go and some tough questions to answer. But we're committed to understanding the potential for a commercial arrangement in China, similar to what we've implemented in our other international growing locations and the opportunities and challenges that would present. In terms of how it works, we're looking at a 3-year pilot project subject to annual review. It will aim to explore how Zespri can work with the local industry to help farmers raise their production and quality and increase their incomes. The first year of the trial will start with the procurement of around 1,000 tonnes of Chinese kiwifruit from Sichuan from a small number of selected grower entities. We will put this through the Zespri supply chain to see how successful it can be. Should it prove successful and the management of SunGold prove successful, China could develop into a significant Northern Hemisphere production base for Zespri and the Sichuan kiwifruit industry. That's an exciting prospect which will bring considerable benefits if we can find a way forward together. It will create yet another avenue for New Zealand and China to deepen our relationship, and it would help deliver benefits to local communities in the same way we have around the world, whether that's investment or jobs or opportunities. Zespri is very confident we can do this under the right circumstances. So on behalf of ZESPI, I'd like to thank all levels of the Chinese government for its support around these unauthorised plantings, and I'd like to acknowledge the support that we've received from the Next Federation in China. That's been immense to the success of our discussions so far. We're very encouraged, and we know that by working together, we can resolve this issue together. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Our final speaker here in Auckland is Brent Ogilvie. Brent is the co-founder and managing director of Pacific Channel, which is a venture development and investment company that specializes in technology and in life science-based industries. He too has a past. He was, in his earlier life, he was a New Zealand Consul and Trade Commissioner in New York.
Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa, Consul General, Matai Delamere, distinguished guests, I'm honoured to be speaking here with you. I thought I'd start by talking about science and technology in New Zealand, then talk a bit about my own company, Pacific Channel, and then boldly try to connect that to China's aspirations and how we might work together. So New Zealand has a number of firsts that I think are significant advantages if you're looking to invest in deep technology in New Zealand. We lack corruption. It's a great place to start a business. Actually, it offers exceptional value compared to other parts of the world, particularly the US. We've got a very supportive government which encourages the funding of innovation and its commercialisation, and indeed there's a strong relationship with China, as this gathering knows, and importantly we can also sell our technology and technology companies to China. And I've got a personal ambition of selling one of our companies to China and ideally one day listing a company in China. New Zealand's created a number of great deep technology success stories. I'm sure you know Rocket Lab, LanzaTech, and one that we were privileged to invest into in gender technologies. We're particularly strong, obviously, in software, but in deep technology, healthcare, and increasingly ag tech. New Zealand has a world-class base, to former Ambassador Brown's point, of sharing our strengths. We can help China in its development as well. Now, in terms of the New Zealand early stage investment, it's small relative, of course, to major markets, but it's growing quite quickly. There's 12 private angel investor groups in New Zealand. There's about another 12 early stage investment funds. It is mostly in software, but it's increasingly in deep technology, and especially this year, I think people are valuing more than ever health and the environment. And despite COVID, it looks like it'll be another record year for innovation investment in New Zealand. And we're lucky that, like China, we can also get back to business as usual, having put this virus under relatively good control. And our businesses are actually born global from day one. New Zealand's a very small market, so our technology companies have the advantage of being focused across the world. In terms of life sciences, we produce actually more PhD scientists per capita in life sciences than any other country in the world. We're second per capita for biotechnology patents, and we're fourth in the commercialization of those technologies. But we have still a huge opportunity to improve, and I think China is a partner that can really help. In terms of my own business, Pacific Channel, we've been going 16 years. We have since the start been focused on two major markets, one of those being China, and about half of our management team are from Greater China originally. We're focused on solving really hard problems using technology. We've made 31 investments in New Zealand, and we're fortunate to have had 3 that have generated very significant cash returns, another 4 that have been sold for shares in overseas companies. We've got a good team that understands science, understand the regulatory pathways, understand the major markets like China, and are skilled at assisting these companies take technology out of universities from benchtop through to market. We've just formed our second fund, and we're fortunate to have the New Zealand government investing into our fund directly for the first time. And we're also fortunate to have families from New Zealand, Australia, and our first family from China investing into our fund as well. We think New Zealand offers the great potential for high returns. It's an opportunity too to diversify away from mainstream investments like property, and you know, we talked about immigration earlier. We think it also offers a good opportunity because New Zealand wants to encourage migrants to invest in areas like this. Boldly, we also hope that we might be able to help China on its 5-year plan, and particularly, you know, it's focused on innovation. It's focused on greening its country, taking that factory to the world and making it greener. And as the Consul General said, increasingly on openness. And my own firm just announced last week a joint venture with a large deep technology venture capital firm in Hubei called Xushang. And we're very optimistic that'll lead to our investing in the New Zealand's best early stage innovation, and then using those Chinese resources to take that to the next stage of growing those technologies in market. And as part of the 5-year plan is a strong focus on health, a strong focus on food security, and growing technology strength and independence. And we think our technologies can help in all of those areas. And happily, that's actually directly the areas that our fund focuses on. The future of food, so we've made several investments in dairy technology, for example, human medicine, and clean technologies. And lastly, the new area for us is investing in smart manufacturing to improve productivity. I just want to finish with an example of our investment, and it's an example of good collaboration between New Zealand and China. So we've invested into a company called Orbis Diagnostics, and Orbis has a system for detecting not whether you have COVID-19, but whether you've developed effective immunity to the disease, either from exposure to the virus or from future hoped for vaccinations. And we see this as a very powerful technology because even the best of the vaccine data to date suggests that maybe 1 in 20 or perhaps 1 in 4 people won't develop immunity post-vaccination, and obviously we'll need to know which among us haven't had a sufficient immunity response. We also see it as being helpful at the border. So for countries like China, New Zealand, it'll help with providing another pathway for people to come into our countries. So instead of needing to go into quarantine, if one can demonstrate effective immunity, then one can come straight into the country without risk to themselves or risk to others. And that's a technology that's been developed here, and we are looking to do the last stage of trialling in China. Share. I wish you all a good afternoon, and thank you for inviting me.
I now invite the Deputy Governor of the island of Bali, the Hon. Oka Sukawati, to speak to us. Hon. Sukawati has been Deputy Governor of Bali since 2018, when he was appointed to the position for a 5-year term.
Yang saya hormati para delegasi dan hadirin sekalian. Om Swastiastu. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera, shalom, namo buddhaya, rahayu, rahayu, rahayu. Merupakan sebuah kehormatan bagi saya sebagai bagian dari masyarakat Bali dan juga sebagai Wakil Gubernur Provinsi Bali untuk menyampaikan sambutan pembukaan pada hari ini. Sebagaimana kita ketahui bersama, dunia kini tengah berjuang untuk melawan pandemik COVID-19. Wabah virus ini telah memaksa kita semua untuk membatasi pergerakan dan mendorong kita untuk mempraktekkan protokol kesehatan secara ketat dalam kehidupan keseharian kita. Namun, hari ini saya cukup gembira karena virus ini tidak bisa menghentikan kita semua untuk saling bertukar pemikiran dan saling memperhatikan satu sama lainnya. Para delegasi yang saya hormati, sejak munculnya wabah COVID-19 di Bali sekitar bulan Februari yang lalu, setelah menyaksikan dampak negatif yang sangat signifikan dari wabah ini terhadap seluruh aspek kehidupan masyarakat Bali. Dalam aspek ekonomi, Bali kehilangan hampir 100% pendapatan dari sektor pariwisata internasional, dan ini belum pernah terjadi sebelumnya dalam sejarah kepariwisataan Bali. Bahkan tidak hanya Bali, kita semua pun tidak siap untuk menerima dampak yang luar biasa dari COVID-19 ini. Nah, dalam aspek sosial dan budaya, pandemi COVID-19 telah membatasi ruang dan kapasitas kita untuk menjalani kehidupan sehari-hari. Kita harus senantiasa menjaga jarak, mencuci tangan dengan sabun secara rutin, menggunakan masker, dan menjaga kebersihan dan lingkungan. Meskipun kita bisa mengambil pelajaran positif dari protokol kesehatan ini, masyarakat Bali yang berbasis komunitas mengalami kesulitan untuk terus melakukannya. Kami tidak lagi bisa mengadakan upacara dan ritual keagamaan penting bersama-sama seperti yang kami lakukan dulu. Seluruh kegiatan adat di Banjar harus diawasi secara ketat dan seterusnya, dan seterusnya. Hal ini sangat sulit diterima oleh masyarakat Bali. Namun kami menyadari bahwa ini penting dilakukan agar Bali dapat bangkit lagi di kemudian hari. Nah, hadirin yang saya hormati, Pemerintah Provinsi Bali telah berkomitmen penuh sejak dari awal untuk menanggulangi pandemi COVID-19. Pemerintah terus berupaya untuk meningkatkan fasilitas dan sumber daya kesehatan yang dimiliki untuk mencegah dan meningkatkan rasio kesembuhan. Bali kini memiliki 7 laboratorium khusus untuk pemeriksaan uji swab atau PCR. Lab ini mampu menguji sekitar 2.580 sampel dalam sehari. Kemudian Bali juga memiliki 18 rumah sakit rujukan yang dilengkapi dengan ruang isolasi untuk penanganan pasien COVID-19. Nah, sebagai langkah pencegahan, pemerintah Provinsi Bali mengeluarkan Peraturan Gubernur nomor 46 tahun 2020 yang menekankan pada implementasi tata kehidupan Bali era baru. Regulasi ini menempatkan upaya-upaya pencegahan sebagai prioritas utama dalam segala aspek termasuk pariwisata. Nah, meskipun Bali dapat menerima turis internasional hingga setidaknya akhir tahun 2020, apa yang bisa kami lakukan sekarang adalah melakukan yang terbaik agar Bali benar-benar siap nantinya ketika pariwisata dibuka kembali. Nah, industri pariwisata di Bali harus melewati pemeriksaan tim verifikasi agar mendapatkan sertifikat kelayakan dan melaksanakan protokol kesehatan dengan baik, dan saya yakin Bali telah siap untuk itu, untuk menerima kembali para wisatawan dan untuk menumbuhkan kepercayaan diri kami. Pada bulan Oktober ini juga kami melaksanakan beberapa program, antara lain program We Love Bali dengan melibatkan 4.000 orang untuk menguji pelaksanaan protokol kesehatan. 4.000 orang ini akan mengunjungi Bali dalam grup-grup terpisah hingga akhir bulan November 2020 ini, dan akan diarahkan untuk menginap di akomodasi wisata yang telah mendapatkan sertifikat verifikasi protokol kesehatan. Nah, jika program ini sukses, maka saya yakin Bali telah siap untuk memperoleh kembali kepercayaan dari para wisatawan, terutama wisatawan mancanegara. Bali siap untuk menerima mereka kembali di Pulau Dewata. Para delegasi yang saya hormati, demikianlah sambutan yang dapat saya sampaikan, perkenankan saya untuk mengajak hadirin sekalian untuk saling berdiskusi dan memperkuat kerjasama antara satu dengan lainnya. Kami menerima segala masukan dan saran untuk membangun Bali lebih baik lagi di masa yang akan datang. Terima kasih atas perhatian dan dukungan hadirin sekalian. Saya berharap acara ini dapat berjalan dengan sukses. Sekian, terima kasih. Om Santi, Santi, Santi Om. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera, Shalom, Namo Buddhaya, Rahayu, Rahayu, Rahayu.
Finally, I invite Professor Dong Xuebing, Executive Director General of the Zhejiang University's Regional Development Coordination Center, to be our final keynote speaker.
女士们、先生们，大家好！首先祝贺国际展望大会天空2020召开。下面我就以加强数字经济合作，推动共建“一带一路”高质量发展为主题做一报告。数字经济是“一带一路”合作的亮点。当前，全球经济发展面临较大不确定性，但与此同时，也出现了新的经济增长点。移动支付、跨境贸易等数字服务正逐步深入到“一带一路”沿线国家。一方面，数字产业化、产业数字化，推动实体经济和数字经济深度融合发展，拓展经济合作新空间；另一方面，数字经济极大促进生产资源高效配置和创新集聚，重塑全球价值链格局，促进“一带一路”建设高质量发展。一是数字经济跨越地理限制，拓展国际经济合作新空间。数字技术具有跨越地理特征的优势，使得传统地理集聚的产业实现了跨区域合作。疫情期间，生鲜电商、在线教育、远程办公等一系列线上需求突破了限制，出现井喷式增长，成为经济增长的新亮点。尤其是跨境电商平台畅通中小企业经贸合作，成为“一带一路”建设重要抓手。据速卖通发布，该平台在2019年已实现对“一带一路”沿线国家跨境出口贸易全覆盖，并向俄罗斯等海外商家开放，为沿线各国间外贸网络注入新动力。近年来，跨境电商交易额增长迅速，达到年增长速度 20%。东南亚地区2020年的网购人数将比去年翻一番，达到 3.1 亿人。数字经济推动沿线国家服务贸易。华为与马来西亚运营商签署了5级合作协议，提供网络服务和无线设备。华为与俄罗斯联邦储蓄银行合作，推出数字服务云平台。二是数字经济赋能传统产业，加快沿线国家产业转型升级。数字经济推动传统产业基础设施更新，促进数字化工具和服务的使用，尤其是信息技术与传统制造业融合渗透，推动传统产业数字化转型。企业利用网络通信技术、数字技术，大大提高跨国经营管理水平，提高生产制造效率。中国电力建设集团在面对海外项目建设招标采购难等困境时，搭建跨国远程异地电子化招标平台，实现总部和海外项目评标设施、场所、监管环境的资源共享。这一数字化平台不仅节约成本，还助力企业构建全球化供应生态，提高资源配置效率。三是数字经济促进公共领域合作，提升区域公共服务能力。随着数字基础设施互联互通建设的推进，围绕教育、医疗、卫生和社会保障的数字化转型，将有力提升沿线国家公共服务水平。公众通过在线教育、 智慧问诊等方式获得教育、医疗等公共服务，弥补“一带一路”沿线国家公共服务供给不足的问题。如据统计，通过与沿线国家开展医疗卫生合作，携手打造健康丝绸之路，已经有200多个国家和地区的海外华人华侨获得支付宝海外抗疫平台的医生云上见服务。3是数字经济带动合作机制创新，推动区域治理协同发展。数字技术推动政府治理数字化转型，有力提升政府行政效率、质量和公信力。在战役中，这将通过一图、一码、一指数，利用数字技术进行社区透明监管、疫情信息扩散，实现疫情防控和经济社会发展两手抓、两手硬。这一成功模式很快推广复制到全国各地，大大缩短了中国疫情防控时间。捷克、加纳、以色列、新加坡等国积极与中国开展抗疫合作，借鉴中国的做法，加快公共卫生治理，推出类似的应用程序，评估和跟踪居民的病毒感染风险，及时做出预警，保护公众免受病毒侵害。可以看出，数字经济有助于经济社会发展从要素驱动转向创新驱动。下一步要发挥我国线上经济全球领先的优势，加强与“一带一路”沿线国家之间的数字经济合作，助推各国更快发展，为全球经济增长注入新的动能。一是加快“一带一路”沿线国家光纤、光缆、大数据、互联网等新型基础设施建设。2是加快开展数字技术在行业应用场景的对接应用研发，推动沿线国家产业数字化改造。3是大力推进以云计算、物联网、大数据、人工智能等技术在经济社会领域的广泛渗透和融合运用。4是积极推动全球数字领域协同治理，提高数字“一带一路”的参与度和法治化水平。5是完善数字技术人才跨国培训，加强数字技术人才往来、交流、培训，推动企业和科研院校数字人才联合培养，为“一带一路”建设提供长期的智力支持。以上就是我的演讲内容，谢谢大家。
Now that brings us to the end of our keynote speeches section, and it's my pleasure now to hand this microphone to Dr. Jun Chen, the Secretary General of the Next Foundation, for the next stage of our proceedings this afternoon.
Really appreciate it. Yes. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much, Ambassador Tony Brown, and Tina Koto Katoa. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure we all appreciate we can be here with no restrictions. New Zealand is a truly blessed country with excellent environment, marvelous people, premium products, and reliable services. There is a particular market which is very important to New Zealand, and you probably all agree with me that market is very different from New Zealand. Of course, I'm talking about China. Exporters, big or small, may have faced different issues at different stages. It's not only the market itself. New Zealand has to face competitions from other parts of the world for China market with limited resources. Rutherford famously said, "We don't have much money, therefore we must think." When we think, we found there is a gap. The gap is we lack a way of promoting New Zealand brands in a coordinated manner, in a meaningful approach that matters to China market, even to the regional market. So it's the time It's the time to join hands together to leverage our strengths, our connections and resources to tell New Zealand stories in our major markets, especially after RCEP signing. Over the last 3 years, Next Federation has gradually built our reputation by providing a platform for countries to share their resources and ideas, by helping companies solve real problems, provide constructive solutions and reliable services. We have been working in the model of GMABC, that means coordinating resources among government, media, academy, business, and community sectors. And we are more like a catalyst to coordinate these resources. So based on the value of Unite to Create, Next Federation has launched the New Zealand National Brands Program. This is to add value to reputation building, brand promotion, and economic and trade development of New Zealand in its major markets, not only in China but also in Indonesia, South Korea, Japan, UAE, and many other countries. We particularly thank our co-organizer, New Zealand Business Roundtable in China, NZBreak. Without your support, we couldn't have made this happen. We also need to thank global partners from New Zealand, China, USA, Indonesia, South Korea, Japan, UAE, Kazakhstan, and many other countries. We appreciate your support to the vision and mission of New Zealand National Brands Program. We do have certain criteria to be nominated as national brands. This doesn't mean we will close the door to small and medium companies. We do know you probably need more help than our biggest companies. So please come and talk to us. We do have an independent review panel with people from different backgrounds and sectors. We are honored to invite Lenive, a well-established law firm from Christchurch, as our observer. With a long history since the 1860s, Lenive has become one of New Zealand's leading law firms. Now, let's welcome Gerard Dale, partner of Lenive, to deliver a summary statement on the first group of candidates to New Zealand national brands. Warmly welcome.
Good afternoon. The 2020 Next Summit has focused on shared advantaged resource. This is one of the 3 objects of the Next Foundation, alongside seeking optimal practices and improving public relations. These awards, co-organised by the Next Federation and the New Zealand Business Roundtable in China, recognise New Zealand's national brands on a global stage. These awards are designed to enhance these 3 objects of the Next Federation and seek to add value to reputation building, brand promotion, and economic trade development of New Zealand in its major global markets. The awards presented are not lightly given, they are hard-earned. Candidates submitted applications to the Awards Program Office for independent review. A global independent panel for the New Zealand national brands was then appointed and considered each candidate's brand. The Global International Panel for the New Zealand national brands comprises 29 luminaries who are all experts in their respective fields. They include government, economics, business, health and environmental sciences, and humanities. The panelists are drawn from a number of different nations, including New Zealand, China, the United States, Canada, Korea, Indonesia, Singapore, and Malaysia. An expert global lens was applied to each candidate's brand in the process of evaluation. The panelists reviewed the submissions and conducted their own research, scoring and providing critical feedback. 5 criteria were assessed by the panelists, all of which were critical to a candidate being recognised by the Next Federation as having a national brand. The criteria are having excellent qualities that can represent the national level standard of New Zealand, being ranked at the forefront of the relevant industry in terms of overall strength, having industry leading capacity for innovation, cooperation and sustainability, enjoying public popularity and good reputation, and finally, having a strong sense of social responsibility and passion about public interest. The scoring and feedback was then collated, tabulated and checked to determine the recipients of these awards. To win an award, a candidate generally had to average a score over 8 out of 10 from each of the panel members and receive outstanding critical praise. The winners' scores, I understand, will be announced as the awards are presented and announced later when the entire presentation is published. It is worth noting that some of the critical feedback from the scoring process. The panellists were keen to identify brands that had an obvious impact on national economic and social development and or promote scientific and technical innovation, all with an emphasis on global cooperation. The panellists looked for brands that met these criteria, and as one panel member eloquently put it, they represented the true heart of New Zealand in global markets. They also looked for evidence of continuing development of the brand and its contribution to New Zealand and to New Zealand's national brand in that global market. A key point from the panellists' feedback was never to stop developing your brand and seeking new ways to advance your brand in the global market. The recipients of today's awards receive a mark of distinction, which recognises their hard work in developing an iconic global brand, but what perhaps sets them apart is that commitment to continue developing their brand in the market. The winners of these awards are in a unique position to enhance the value of their brand and the brand of New Zealand in existing, developing and emerging markets to achieve better social and economic benefits for all. We wish them well, urge them to keep up the good work and ask them to help share their knowledge and experience with other New Zealand businesses. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Gerard and Lenny, for your kind support, and thanks to all the experts on the global review panel. So now it's the exciting part. Let's warmly welcome the first presenter to address some remarks on the winner Fonterra. He has seen the rapid development of Fonterra in China and other major markets. Welcome, Mr. Tony Brown, former New Zealand ambassador to China. Welcome. Welcome, Tony, to address some remarks on the winner Fonterra.
Thank you, Dr. Jin Chen, for this opportunity to address a few remarks. When I was ambassador in China, Fonterra was seen very much as being a partner of the embassy, and the embassy a partner of Fonterra. Fonterra went through some very difficult times in China at that point. We had the most depressing, alarming, dangerous situation around the melamine crisis. But from that, Fonterra emerged with its reputation intact. It emerged with recognition of the fact that it was concerned always about the highest standards of the product and of its management in China, that it did not at any point indulge in any form of countenancing anything other than the putting the interests of its consumers in first place. And I remember when the Prime Minister came to China, the Premier of China himself addressed our Prime Minister and confirmed the respect in which Fonterra was held. Now, since that time, in the 10 years since then, China has become ever more important for Fonterra, as we've heard today. The future of China in Fonterra's marketing plans and in the development of its plans marks and is very much parallels New Zealand's own ambition and expectation of what New Zealand can and should aim for, strive for in China. And so, having had a career in our diplomatic service, one knows a number of people, many people, who've worked hard, worked very professionally to establish the brand of Fonterra in China, not just as a New Zealand brand, but as a global brand and a globally leading brand. So it's with a great pleasure, therefore, that I draw not only on my position, whatever it is today, but on what it was years ago as I served the New Zealand government, and in that role had the pleasure and the opportunity on many occasions to work with colleagues from Fonterra.
I would like to invite Tony to announce the score from the global independent panel for Fonterra to be New Zealand national brand. The total score is 10. So I would like to invite Tony to announce the score for Fonterra.
I see here that the score for Fonterra out of 10 is 8.25, which, at least in academic circles, would amount to an A+.
So, just hold well, and thank you, Tony. Now, let's warmly welcome Mr. Simon Tyker, Director of Global Stakeholder Affairs of Fonterra, to receive the award. Congratulations. To Fonterra. Thank you. Applause to Fonterra. Thank you. Okay, now we would like to invite Mr. Simon. Simon, hold your place, please. Yeah, Simon. Sorry, we would like to invite Simon to say some words on this award, please.
I'm weighed down. Look, you've heard some very kind remarks about Fonterra from Ambassador Brown, and you've heard me talk. But I think just two things. One is to just reiterate our deep appreciation for this award. We work very hard in China, and we work very hard around the world, and it really is very meaningful to receive this recognition from the Next Foundation and its international partners. So thank you very, very much for that. The other thing I would just like to reiterate is our company's commitment to work hard in China, to be a very constructive partner to China and to our customers and consumers there, and to invest deeply into the future of China's food business and dairy business. We are committed for the long term, and we look forward to going to strength to strength with our partners there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Simon. Congratulations. Thank you. And let's warmly welcome the second presenter to address remarks on the winner, Zespri. I don't think there is a better person to present this award to Zespri. He's Dr. Don Brush. Dr. Brush was the managing director of New Zealand Kiwi Fruit Authority in 1980s. I will let Don to tell your story.
Thank you very much. I can't think of any industry which more closely symbolizes the relationship between New Zealand and China than the kiwi fruit industry. The plant material from which the Hayward green kiwi fruit variety was developed here in the city came to New Zealand from China in 1904, a long time ago now. At that point, it was not regarded as a commercial fruit at all. And New Zealand was the first country to start producing kiwi fruit commercially. I've been to China now 16 times in total, but my first visit was in 1986, when I was chief executive of what was then called the New Zealand Kiwi Fruit Authority, a precursor of Zespri. And the reason for my visit was because New Zealand wanted new plant material from China, and China, which was not then growing kiwi fruit commercially at all, wanted to know how to commercially grow the fruit and store the fruit. It was a perfect relationship for New Zealand because, of course, China is Northern Hemisphere and New Zealand is Southern Hemisphere. So to a large degree, production in the two countries is complementary. Of course, originally, as New Zealanders will know, we called this fruit the Chinese gooseberry. And I guess it was a reflection of the kind of tensions I talked about earlier in my comments between the United States and China, that we felt we had to change the name initially from Chinese gooseberry because we couldn't sell this fruit in the United States. We changed it to kiwi fruit, and it's become known as kiwi all over the world. New Zealand is now, of course, in the view of Zespri and as a Zespri supplier, in my view, the supplier of the best quality kiwi fruit in the world. But whereas once upon a time we were the only producer of kiwi fruit in the world, I think we're now the second largest, but China is something like 3 times the volume of kiwi fruit that New Zealand produces. China is by far the largest producer of kiwi fruit in the world. So the relationship between New Zealand and China is epitomized by the kiwi fruit industry, and I'm very glad to be a part of it. I'm also happy to announce that Zespri has won one of these magnificent awards as a national brand, I think absolutely rightly. Now, do I present this to... What do I...
This is the score from the Global Independent Review Panel.
Okay, so Zespri scored 8.23%. Narrowly beaten by Fonterra.
Okay.
Thank you, Don. Now let's warmly welcome Michael Fox, Head of Communications and Stake Engagement of Zespri, to receive the award. Congratulations. Thank you. Now let's welcome Michael to say some words on this award.
Thank you, Dr. Chin. I'd like to start by requesting a recount, actually. I'd like those 0.2 points back. But no, thank you very much on behalf of Zespri and the New Zealand kiwi fruit industry for this recognition. It does mean a lot to us. You heard me talk before about the importance of China to Zespri in the industry, and it's very real. We have meeting rooms in our Zespri head office named Shanghai and after other places in China. And I know just it's a place that our chairman, who unfortunately couldn't be here today, but he prioritises, he tries to spend as much time as he can there. Our chief executive is there at the moment. And like I say, we're very committed to exploring this commercial partnership, which we hope will succeed. But I'd just like to thank you once again, and thanks in particular to the Next Federation for this award. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Congratulations. Thank you, Michael Fox and Dr. Don Brush. Now let's warmly welcome the third presenter to address remarks on the winner, Queenstown. She has views from both global visitors and the local tourism authorities. Welcome Dr. Xiaoying Fu, Executive Member of the Council of Next Federation and Independent Director of New Zealand Maori Tourism. Welcome.
Well, you know, it's a special occasion. And I think, you know, it's based on all your criteria deciding who are the winners. I do think there is one place which probably does standing out by its name, by the places are remarkable, and there is a very Maori-known lake, Wakatipu. And as far as I know, Ngātahu's tourism has played a very important role in this Queenstown. And that is the major industry in South Island. In Queenstown, they have pioneered lots of activities in that region. And I think there is another particular aspect. I think it can compete with China. And that is if you bought a house 40 years ago in Queenstown, you will be very pleased today. And that's probably the China speed, which in New Zealand we have. One of the very few. Right, okay, so I think, you know, it's, you want me to do something else?
Yeah, announce the score.
Right, well, it's also another amazing score. I'm sorry, Queenstown, you scored 8.15.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Xiaoying Fu. Now, let's welcome Ms. Anne Lockhart, CEO of Destination Queenstown, to receive the award. Congratulations. Congratulations. Okay, now let's welcome Ms. Anne to say some words on this award. Come.
Well, I might just have to get you to hold it. Thank you very much. I want to thank the Federation for recognising Queenstown. We're delighted and honoured to win this award. And it is a privilege to be recognised by an organisation that's renowned for exploring and sharing initiatives to encourage global innovation, cooperation and sustainability. So as you said, Anne Lockhart, I'm the Chief Executive of Destination Queenstown, which is the regional tourism office based there. On a personal level, I've enjoyed many visits and done a lot of business in China over the years. Firstly, as an exporter of New Zealand's fine merino, and secondly, as an importer of raw materials around feather and down, having run the very famous Ferry Down New Zealand brand. In recent years, I've managed a sister city relationship with Hangzhou, so that's the sister city to Queenstown, and enjoyed many visits there to that equally, I think, beautiful city. And on a very personal note, and I think our young Chinese people here will appreciate this, but my daughter is the personal makeup artist for a very famous Chinese actor, Miss Yi Fai Lu, who was the star in the Mulan movie recently. And she said my daughter spent nearly a year with her every day and said an outstanding Chinese citizen. So as far as Queenstown's concerned, like all destinations, we've had 2020's been an incredibly difficult year. We started with a booming tourism industry, but quickly felt the effects, obviously, of COVID-19 from March this year. Over 60% of all jobs in Queenstown are related to tourism, and in 2019, before COVID, it contributed to 55% of the local GDP. The tourism dollars per capita here are the largest in New Zealand, and in 2019 the visitor spend was $74,000 per resident of Queenstown, showing the importance of tourism to our region. Tourism is our backbone, and we often fly the flag for tourism in New Zealand, being an iconic visitor destination renowned globally. In this respect, Queenstown also plays an important role for New Zealand as a large contributor to the national GDP as well. New Zealand as a whole benefits from the Queenstown visitor experience. Visitors who came to Queenstown, who come to New Zealand, I should say, because of Queenstown and our status as sort of as an iconic destination, spent a total of $1.44 billion to $1.7 billion per annum nationally. And this contributes to the New Zealand overall GDP and employs between 13,000 to 17,000 jobs nationally. As far as our major Chinese market is concerned, or our major international market is concerned, pre-COVID, the Chinese visitor market was one of New Zealand's most important markets, being our second largest long-haul market after the US. Chinese visitors in Queenstown in the calendar year 2019 spent 17 million and contributed to 11% of the total international spend. Going forward, as we work along beside our community and our businesses to build, support and rebuild, it is challenging to imagine what the tourism landscape will look like as we move past 2020 and beyond. As an organisation, we're focusing our efforts on responding to the challenges facing our industry and trying to ensure that tourism rebounds to once again being one of the most successful sectors of our national economy, just behind dairy, of course, and kiwi fruit. As we now move into the next phase, the focus shifts to the local tourism ecosystem, understanding the macro environment that we will be working in going forward and beginning to work on recovery. Demand will recover gradually. It has started locally, regionally and domestically, and we look forward to the return of our international markets when it's safe to do so. If there's one shining light of this crisis, though, it's seeing our community pull together and help each other out. So, finally, to all our friends across the rest of New Zealand and to our Chinese friends, when the borders open, which we hope will be sooner rather than later, we invite you to come and visit New Zealand as soon as you can. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Anne Lockhart and Dr. Xiaoyin Fu. Now, let's warmly welcome the fourth presenter to address remarks on the winner, Silver Fern Farms. He has rich experience and critical insights in the business bubble of New Zealand. Welcome, Mr. Brian O'Reilly, CEO of EMA New Zealand. Thank you.
It gives me great pleasure to present this award. I mentioned to you earlier that my time working for Mike Moore, who was the New Zealand Trade Minister, and I should have also acknowledged the fact that Mike was the Secretary General of the World Trade Organization when China was admitted into the WTO, so another great New Zealand-China link. But one of the things that Mike was quite famous for in his early days as a minister was the lamb burger. And the lamb burger was really a euphemism for the need for New Zealand to add value to its meat, to its primary produce. And this actually wasn't a new thing. And in fact, a good friend of mine from Dunedin pointed out to me that I think in 1895 there was a front page article in the Otago Daily Times which called for New Zealand to buy a chain of butcher's shops in London as a way of differentiating the quality of our meat from other meat that was exported to the UK. It would be fair to say we've been slow learners in that value-added journey. And so the lamb burger was really part of that discussion about how do you take what is a brilliant product, and I think you could say that about all New Zealand meat, and how you could add value to it in a way that was different on the world market. And in fact, we used to take, in those days, union leaders with us on these trade missions, because one of our problems in those days was actually just retooling our plants, retooling our workers, so that they understood that it wasn't just about shipping a carcass, it was actually breaking it down into cuts that actually were significant for those markets. And in Silver Fern Farms, we have a company that has cracked it. It's been a long journey for New Zealand, and it isn't just about the processing, but it's also about research. It's about understanding markets. It's about understanding the quality of the meat and what consumers are looking for. And so I know that's been a difficult journey, but it's a journey that Silver Fern Farms have cracked. And so, Simon, it's with great pleasure, given my small part in that very long journey, to congratulate you on this achievement. I think if there is a God and if there is a heaven, I think Mike would be sitting up there having a good chortle about this, because it was definitely something that was very passionate for him, and he'd actually worked in a meatworks as a very young man in the north, and so that was very, very much a part of him. So please join me in congratulating Simon Limmer and the team from Silver Fern Farms. And the score for Silver Fern Farms is a magnificent 7.61, so congratulate them on that.
Okay, let's welcome Mr. Simon Limmer, CEO of Silver Fern Farms, to receive the award. Congratulations. Okay, let's welcome Mr. Simon Limmer to say some words on this award. Welcome.
Kia ora tātou, Dajau Hao. Good evening, everyone. Thanks very much for this honour, and Brett, for your kind words. I think we've got a little bit further to go yet. We are on the right track, and I do hope that Mike is looking down on us with a sense of satisfaction. Thank you very much to the Next Federation. This is a great honour, and I think very symbolic of the journey that we are on in establishing ourselves and our brand in China. I think when you think about innovation, when you think about cooperation, and you think about sustainability, they're really critical words for us as we think about our products and how we take them to the world. And so all the assistance and support that we can have on that journey is very, very valuable. So thank you so much for that. Silver Fern Farms is New Zealand's largest exporter of beef, lamb and venison, and China is our largest market today. It's our most valuable market and our biggest volume market. About a third of our sales are going into that market. Consumers are buying our products because of the attributes. They're buying our products because of the eating experience that they are really learning about and enjoying. They're buying our products because of the health attributes that grass-fed, naturally produced New Zealand products offer, and they're buying our products because of the sustainable story that goes in the background as well. And they link all of that through our brand, and we're working very hard to ensure that we are positioning it well. As a chief executive, I've got an unusual challenge because I have two shareholders. One of them is a group of New Zealand farmers, and of those of you who understand New Zealand farmers, they're quite a demanding lot. There's some of them sitting out here. The other shareholder I have is a group of Chinese businessmen, and so I have the unenviable task of navigating between the Chinese demands and the New Zealand suppliers' demands. And when I get that right, when they're both equally dissatisfied, which is probably about the best that I can hope for, then I think that is success. But really it's a story for New Zealand and China. There is complementarity, there is alignment in terms of the interests of our two countries, and for my two shareholders there is complementarity and alignment in terms of their interests as well. So I think it's a very, very natural fit, and I'm very fortunate to have both those shareholders. So thank you very much on behalf of Silver Fern Farms.
Thank you, Simon. Congratulations. Congratulations to Silver Fern Farms. So now I'm very pleased to call for a winners group photo. Let's welcome all the winners and presenters back to the stage to have a winners group photo, please. Let's join him, give them a big applause, please. Congratulations. Congratulations and music. Thank you. Please give the winners a big applause again. They really deserve it. Congratulations. Congratulations to Fantara, Westway, Queenstown, Silverfern Farms. Congratulations, and also congratulations to New Zealand national brands. Please be seated. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you all. The principal partner and the official chief designated product to this summit is Hongxi Feng, Red West Phoenix. It's a Chinese national brand baijiu. Tonight, we will invite VIP guests to drink Hongxi Feng, one of the Chinese national brands, to celebrate New Zealand national brands. And this big brother just arrived last night, the red one, in the last night, right on time to celebrate the national brands of New Zealand. It's our intention to keep the national brands program keep going and keep up your good work. It could be you in the coming years. Let's work together and hope we can be a value-added partner. Unite to create. Now, I'm very pleased to give the grant to Mr. William Zhao, the chairman of the Council of Next Federation, for the Hurricane Lamp Award. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chen. I'm retired, so not much left, only one left for me. And the Red Hongxi Feng is for the winners of the award. So we'll celebrate that this evening. So you see in front of you, this is a Hurricane Lamp. Hurricane Lamp Award was established by Next Summit as a symbol for optimal practices in international cooperation to lead the global to learn from them. The concept of the optimal practice was covered in extensive discussions during Next Summits. Optimal practice encourages people to think more elements into consideration while seeking global collaboration and choose the best path to achieve long-term and common interests. The Next Summit 2020 set 3 Hurricane Lamp Super Awards under the global strategic name of innovation, cooperation, and sustainability, and 5 Hurricane Lamp Top Awards in operational area of policy, coordination, connectivity of infrastructure, unlimited trade, financial integration, and closer people-to-people ties. The candidates are the speakers to different sub-form of this Next Summit. So now, let's welcome Mr. Charles Liu, the Chief Supervisor of Next Federation, released the winners list for this year's Hurricane Lamp Awards. Welcome.
Thank you, William. Ladies and gentlemen, after the online voting and closed-door view meeting, Next Federation has selected winners to Hurricane Lamp Award 2020. It's my honor to announce the list as following. The top awards: winner to Hurricane Lamp Top Award on Policy Coordination, Mr. Mohammed Asli Law, Pakistan. Winner to Hurricane Lamp Top Award on Connectivity of Infrastructure, Mr. Zhang Chenhua, China. Winner to Hurricane Land Top Award on Unimpeded Trade, Mr. Roland Korbachilov, Kazakhstan. Winner to Hurricane Land Top Award on Financial Integration, Professor Ding Yoshin, Korea, South Korea. Winner to Hurricane Land Top Award on Close People-to-People Ties, Mr. Sun Shen, Japan. Number 3, Super Awards. Hurricane Land Super Awards on Global Innovation, Mr. Xu Peng, China. Hurricane Land Super Award on Global Cooperation, Professor Bill Daly, New Zealand. Hurricane Land Super Award on Global Sustainability, Mr. Yun Xin, USA. Congratulations to all the winners. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks, Charles. And congratulations to the winners. Due to the pandemic, here we just present the award to the New Zealand winner, Professor Bill Denny. Now, let's welcome the presenter, Professor Galway, to address some words. Professor Galway is a fellow of the Royal Society of New Zealand, honorary chair of New Zealand Chinese Scientists Association, member of New Zealand Advisory Committee of Next Federation. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Zhang. New Zealand and China have close research collaborations. As my understanding, there are many areas, including food safety, water science, and also one is the non-transferable diseases. So this award given to the Professor Bill Denny is very important because his long-time studies in the cancer research. Right. Dr. Bill Denny is a distinguished professor in Auckland Cancer Society and Maurice Wilkins Center and the University of Auckland. Trained in Auckland and Oxford University, medical chemist and drug, he has received many honors for his research and work, including Rusford Medal of the Royal Society of New Zealand, Andre Albert Medal of UK Royal Society of Chemistry, and Officer of the New Zealand Order of Merit for service to the cancer research. He is a fellow of Royal Society, New Zealand. The award he received today is called the Hurricane Lamp Super Award on Global Collaboration for his work on the commercial collaboration for drug development in a university setting. Professor Denny, please.
So Professor Bill Denny is a fellow of the Society of New Zealand, Auckland Cancer Society, Wilkins Center, University of Auckland. And thanks, Mr. Gao, and congratulations to Professor Denny. Please say some more to our audience. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Council of the Next Federation and other guests, I most humbly thank you for this wonderful Hurricane Lamp Award. I was very fortunate to be able to present some of our work recently at the next Federation 2020 International Cloud Summit on Biotechnology and Pharmaceuticals held in Xizhijiang. Although it had to be done by Zoom remotely, it was still a very interesting experience for me. Now I note that this award is part of an endeavour by the next Federation to encourage people to take many elements into consideration when seeking global collaboration and to choose a path to achieve long-term common interests. And I think this is certainly what we have tried to do over the years in the Auckland Cancer Society Research Centre in the University of Auckland. Drug development is a very multidisciplinary exercise between people of many different disciplines: medicinal chemistry, pharmacology, biology, etc., etc. And myself as a medicinal chemist have benefited hugely over the years from the talented biologists we have in the centre in learning another discipline of relevance. And I'd particularly like to thank and note my multi-decade collaboration with your next foundation member, Professor Bruce Bagley, who's sitting over there. Bruce, for many years of collaboration, for teaching me what biology I know, which is not very much. Thank you very much indeed. But interdisciplinary scientific collaborations are not enough in drug development. They are essential, but they're not enough to get a drug to patients. So part of our work has been fostering close collaborations between our laboratory and commercial organisations. And these, we've had substantial collaborations with large pharma around the world, particularly Pfizer, Novartis, Genentech, a number of smaller pharmaceutical companies in many different countries, and of course our own startup companies out of the university as well, where we've been able to attract venture capital money into the drug development process. And it's through these collaborations, which have been essential to us, that we've been able to bring to date 17 new drugs to clinical trials around the world. 3 of those have now been accepted for use medically, and another 6 are currently in clinical trials in many countries around the world. So I'd like to end simply by thanking the next Federation again for this wonderful award, which I'm extremely privileged to accept on behalf of all the staff in the Cancer Research Centre. Thank you very much indeed.
Welcome. So let's talk to the winner of Hurricane Lamp Award, and we wish optimal practices could lead. We hope international partners could work together with these winners and teams to set down new product ideas to promote global innovation, cooperation, and sustainability. Hereby, I would like to take this chance to thanks again to the panels of Next Summit 2020, hosts Next Federation, China Economic Information Service of Human Agents, principal partner, official chief designate product, Red Xifeng集团, and supported by the Research Center for Regional Coordinated Development of Zhejiang University, China Academy of West Region Development of Zhejiang University, Indonesia Research and Development International, Chinese Postgraduate Society of New Zealand, Tsinghua University, Students Association of Belt Road Initiative. A magazine of overseas Jiangxi people, official partners, Riesland Real Estate Group, law firm, RCR Infrastructure, Magic Lamp, Tehehe Estate, who provide this lively venue for the event. Thank you. Genature, Alex Fancy, New Zealand Food, Easter Drinking Water, JEL International, Institute of Peace and Diplomatic Studies. Thank you for all for your kind support. And Yan Xifeng is the best baijiu to celebrate the world. Let's enjoy tonight. Thank you. This is the last session of this summit. Thank you for your join and support. So we would like to invite. Okay, I think this is the end of the event. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, here we conclude the next summit, Sky 2020 ceremony today. Thanks for coming everyone and hope you have a nice weekend. Thank you.